1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Welcome back to the Racial Draft Podcast. I am your host, Michael Ford, joined by my co-host, Kia Lisi herself. Kia, how's it going?
Mother of all draft pickings. I am here. Hello.
I know we had an early question about British things, but this was really early for you to employ the accent.
It's time that I started talking the way I usually talk.
Okay, well, we will see how long the accent sticks with us.
Hold on, just for a second. Carlos looked at me and just shook his head as though he is jealous of my accent, my amazing accent.
Yes, that sound that you hear of head being shaken is from the Latinx delegation, Carlos. Carlos, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? This is Mira in the Snyder Cut British accent going on here.
No truth to the rumor that there are bubbles being formed for you to vocalize in. And we have a very special guest, the analyst himself, the man who always brings the on-point racial draft commentary, Arturo Garcia. Arturo, how's it going?
Oh, always glad to be here. Glad to be here at the finish line too. Tremendous season by a few people, and then I can confirm that the LVP discussion from a little while back, that ended up playing out like everybody said.
Yeah, it should have gone maybe further down to the wire, but the certain character decided that he's the real MVP. And let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into racial draft business. Let's talk about the final scores. We had a little delay last week, but we got our FCL scores. We're actually going to be joined by the head of the FCL maybe a little bit later. But for now, before we roast him about his scoring criteria, we're going to do what we do, bottom to top. We're going to first talk about the week 10 scoring.
How exciting.
Yes, very exciting, Kia. Or Queen of Scots.
Carlos, I have the best accent ever. I don't know why you're so jealous. Stop rolling your eyes.
It's like you and Dick Van Dyke, best British accents ever.
That hurts, mate.
But that brings us, all right, so final week 10. In 9th place with 9 points. The 9th pick, the South Asian delegation. 999, as they say. Led by 6 points by South Asian Iron Fist. There we have it.
I say 999 to Iron Fist.
No. Anyway, second to last place, as per the new rules of our what's the disrespectful? I guess we'll call them the Moon Cricket delegation.
No.
In 8th place, in eighth place, the further back you finish, the more disrespectful you get. So be happy that you're only in 8th place, Black delegation, with with 12 points, led by 3 points from Black Panther and 3 points by Emma Frost. Rounding it out, hey, via trade, 2 points from Commissioner Gordon.
See?
2 points from Krakoa.
Ooh.
And 2 points for Professor X. So that was the 12 points for the Black delegation. Staying out of last place for the week. Stay tuned for how they finished in the season. Next up, in 7th place, the White delegation. We did not come up with disrespectful terms for white people, but we could start that trend.
Oh yeah. Well, we could be like a guess who, like
We should-
with Bernie Mac and the dad.
We should
And then
just
go
rate
off
the like brands of crackers. So we get
I guess bird shit.
Yes, I do. I too love a good Ritz. But yes, led by, and this is the most disrespectful part of the whole thing, 6 points for white Luke Cage and 3 points for white Miles Morales. So team colonizer, even when they finish near the bottom, they find a way to screw us. Next up, though, finishing on top of the white delegation, which is a win in and of itself, the Native American delegation with 14 points, led by one guess.
Venom.
Oh, almost got it, but it's actually Carnage. Actually, Carnage.
Well, they're still both such great picks. I'm so overwhelmed by the picks that the Native delegation made.
Speaking of Carnage, stay tuned. We'll talk a little later about some trailers. But yeah, 8 points for Carnage, 4 points for John Greycrow. Hey. And 2 points for Puck.
Really, John Greycrow? Is that an automated pick?
Yes, that John Greycrow was an auto draft pick. And
oh wow.
Ask yourself, does this character seem like they were already Native American? And then the answer is they were auto picked.
That is correct.
The algorithm knows.
the power of the racial algorithm, or in the case of the white delegation, the algo-lacorithm. Next up, and this is going to hurt some people, some of whom might be on the podcast right now. In 5th place, the multiracial delegation, putting up 20 points in the final week of the season. You know who let them down most of all?
Shep. Oh.
Wow.
Diana Prince put up another 0 this week.
Wow.
Another 0 for Wonder Woman. It was like you said. Because there was no movie. There was no reason to push her. She got pushed out of the Justice League. And, she only has the one Wonder Woman book that, in the beginning of the season, she had a digital book that was coming out, in the off weeks, but then that book abruptly ended. And then it was just small amounts of Diana, not enough wonder for this woman.
Maybe just because, she had a male leader this time around and she was like, I'm not putting out for him. I think I've done enough for this world and for most men.
I was just going to say that, once a month, Wonder Woman shows up and wrecks shop.
I know what you're getting at.
Well, beyond that, look at Wolverine past 3 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
A tremendous drop off. He fell off a cliff.
Well, here's the thing, though. Wolverine.
He's on a drink.
Wolverine wasn't a big player in season 1 either. We had hoped that this would be a bounce back season for Wolverine. And, he started strong. I mean, he had a couple of specials. He still does that thing that he does where he shows up in a bunch of books, but he'll occasionally just show up and score 1 point. So we'll have to rethink where Wolverine should be, thought about in terms of tiers of point scoring characters. Which, we've talked about it. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. The maybe some changes are going to be coming to the format in season 3. But I think if that were to happen, if we were going to be talking about tiers a little bit differently, I think we might want to consider that Wolverine might not be first round value. Speaking of first round value, though, the 6th. Sorry, we're going the other order. The 4th place team of the week, led by their MVP, Peter Parker, and his 15 points. The Southeast Asian delegation put up 25 points this week. Spider-Man, Human Torch, Captain America, Jessica Drew. Those were the 4 characters that put up points. 4th place.
Damn.
Yeah.
Peter Parker is definitely,
He
I
is,
don't know, his raise some eyebrows. Like, oh, they use Peter Parker like it's very similar to the way DC uses Batman, except that Marvel is usually way more diverse than that with the way they spread out points. But Peter Parker is everywhere.
not to mention the books that Peter Parker's in an alternate universe, and he could be putting up even more points.
Yeah.
But these, I mean, listen, I'm a Peter Parker mark, so that's probably not the right.
It shows the power of that brand in using it to get other characters over.
Yeah,
and I can remember when Marvel was trying to push Marvel's son into Captain Marvel's spot. I forgot his name, but the kid with the white hair and the bands, and ultimately went crazy in the Peter David run.
Is that Genisville?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
In the Peter David run, Spider-Man shows up, and literally the story's called gratuitous crossover. But you can get away with that because it's known that Spider-Man serves that function at the business level.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not necessarily going to get into it on the show because there's not a lot of news behind it. But there's a character named Reptile who is getting his own solo later this year, and he was recently featured in a Spider-Man book in a team up, which kind of signaled to everyone, oh, they might be doing some big things with Reptile.
I did see that. I actually did want to bring that up tonight. He also showed up in King in Black, right?
I think that was the one that I'm talking about. Like where he teamed up with Spider-Man. It was during the King in Black event. He may be. The Latinx delegation might want to keep their eye on a rising star in the delegation.
No comment.
No, I know. Don't want to tip your hand to season 3 strategy, but let's move on to the final 3 of the week. There are some delegations that we typically have named by now that are as yet unnamed, and we'll start out with the Jewish delegation. Kia, are you shocked at the strong performance of the Jewish delegation this week with 28 points?
Well, I mean, it's kind of coinciding with real life, so I'm not surprised. Oh.
We here at the Racial Draft will not talk about. All right, we're moving right on. We are moving right on. I got a memo from my boss, and we're just going to move on.
This is a strong showing, don't you think?
11 points by Man-Thing. Which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know if you were reading the Man-Thing event. Man-Thing tried to go into Krakoa, and Krakoa kept him right out of there. So it answers the question: who would win between plants and land? I guess.
What book was that in? I haven't read anything this week.
I think it was the Man-Thing X-Men crossover thing. But that's a big part of why the Jewish delegation had been making strong showings over the last couple of weeks. That Man-Thing event where there'd basically be 2 Man-Thing books crossing over with Avengers and X-Men and Spider-Man and Captain America. So 11 points for Man-Thing, 6 points for Captain Marvel, 6 points for Bruce Banner, 2 points for Barbara Gordon, 2 points for Joe Malayan, and via bonus points, 1 point for John Constantine. Hey there, John.
Imagine rolling a dice on a Man-Thing event.
That's true. They put a lot of stock in this, but we're down to the final 2. The second place team, the highest finish of the season, and it came in the last week. The Polynesian delegation with 29 points, led by 15 points from poor Black people. 15 points from Storm.
Damn, she came back out of nowhere.
Yep. 9 points for Thor. Polynesian Thor came to play. 5 points from Iron Man. And there it is, the 29 points. So three people held it down for the Polynesian delegation. And that leaves one delegation, guys.
So wait, before we get into this last delegation, just to set it up, the
Really?
multiracial delegation scored 20 points,
Mhm.
correct? Which means the Latinx delegation needed to score 35 points or more to win the week and therefore the league for the season.
No, that is incorrect. The Latinx delegation was up by 14 points, so they only needed to score 6 points or more.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is a very Steph Curry style scoring.
We only
title.
needed to score 6. Got it.
But
We're
I
well
like,
beyond
I
6.
like Carlos's math.
Yes,
Some
much
insurance
like-
never hurts.
yeah, exactly. Because this week they put up 50 points. 50 points, led by guess guys, 19 points in a quote unquote down week by Bruce Wayne Batman, but 10 points from Blade.
Yes.
What? Who knew? Who knew about Latinos and Blades? Like who knew? Who knew? Also, Psylocke, and 7 points from the most recently acquired via trade, America Chavez. Hey,
She put up 7. How did she put up 7?
But he
fleeced.
didn't fleece them. He didn't fleece them.
Hey, she put up
Where's the black
7.
delegation when you need them?
You know whose points I didn't talk about this week? Red Hood.
Okay. Wait a second. Hold on. They didn't play Renee Montoya. Did Renee Montoya score points? Because if Batman scored a bunch of points, there's a good shot Renee Montoya was there. They didn't have her on the roster. They kept her in the supplemental.
Mm.
I can lead a horse to water, my friends. I cannot make them drink.
I mean, no, here's the thing. I mean, I did like the fact that they added Red Hood to the delegation. I just wish they had gotten a little bit more value, given what they were trading away.
Yep.
7 points. I don't even know how you get to 7 points in that issue of that book. I really like, is there a point for being strapped to a table? Because she did that once for the entire issue.
Well, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to go into the breakdown for the Fantasy Comics League, and we're going to find out exactly how those points were
I'm
scored.
very interested. I knew Blade. I was kind of sure Psylocke we're going to do. I did not know that Batman had a weekly digital series, and so I was just like 2 issues, and one of them he does nothing. So that's why I was very scared that he was about to be outscored by Blade and Psylocke.
Yeah, I did. Now that you mentioned it, if it's okay, well, Michael, you're looking that up. I did have a question for Carlos. As far as the gameplay, could you talk about is it even possible to plan more than 2-3 weeks out at a time when you're drawing up these rosters? What's the week to week process like for you?
Well, for us, because this season is just your best ball, right? So just
Yeah, your best 9.
You don't have to set up a roster. So for us, we just it was really just looking at solicitations and just kind of guesstimating how many appearances we were going to get out of certain characters. For instance, like one that seemed like a reach, but he ended up scoring probably between 13 and 15 points for us on the season was Kingpin. And that's just because his name just kept coming up in the solicitations. And so we knew, like, at the end of this draft, let's just pick him up. He's got a bunch of appearances, and they're not just going to have him sitting behind a desk. Like, he's going to do something in some of these books.
Right.
So in terms of that, like, once we got past the Gotham of it all, because DC just cannot publish a book unless part of it is in Gotham, it was just a matter of looking at solicitations and just looking up appearances and trying to even like decipher code language to be like, okay, that probably means Man Thing there. That probably means that, this is going to be that. And so that was really the whole strategy.
So unfortunately, I can't give you the breakdown. I can give you some of the breakdown. So obviously, America got the point for appearing in her book. America also got the character development, we'll call it, of completely retconning something about her. and she
That-
scored and she scored 5 power points, but I don't have the actual breakdown of what powers she displayed in the book. But stay tuned.
She only
maybe.
appear in the one book because in that issue she just does not like. She tries to use powers and it doesn't like sparks fly out of her hands. But
I
it's always
think I
this,
think the sparks count. I think can you make sparks fly out of your hand?
I mean, this is the
Carlos?
argument I made with the FCL. I was like, just to be clear, just because it doesn't work on anything, I can't make stars fly out of my wrists. So, but I am really interested at that entire breakdown because I could not figure out 7 points. I thought 3 tops.
Well,
So
once again, you set our bar low so that when you exceeded it, you looked like the man. But that brings us to the overall standings. Kiara, are you hyped to find out the overall standings? Because I am.
No, I'm not. I'm not. No. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you know that you needed them to score negative 14 points to.
Well,
to
I
take-
didn't need to because I personally did not partake this season. But next season, I don't know. The mother draftings may need to come back in the full swing.
Ooh.
So there's actual competition.
I hear you, but
You hear
yeah,
that, Carl? Look at Carlos is getting a little nervous. He understands. He understands what I'm all about.
I mean, who will we draft if we drafted all of the same people? Tell you what, you can have Wonder Woman.
You guys only took all my team, but it's all good. I understand. I understand why you guys picked the whole first season multiracial delegation team. I mean, I get it because they were winners.
Sure. Thank you for lending them out.
Yeah, but I will take them back. Season 3. Uh-oh.
Okay.
well, before we get into, we're gonna have a couple weeks to really hammer in. I think we're gonna have some special episodes where we talk about potential rules changes for season 3. So I may table that discussion about how the draft might be shaken up in season 3. But let's do it bottom to top.
We can't have that whole like women can't be captains anymore. Remember like I had that rule before, Mike?
Oh no! It was that women they only score 0.8 of the points.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that too. That
yeah.
too. I think it was both of them actually. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to change that.
Yeah, that's why we're not kicking off in March anymore. We felt like it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, because it was Women's Month, and you didn't want to do that.
Right. Exactly. But yeah. So
if you start in September, would the Latinx team get the first pick?
Ooh.
No, because no.
Heritage
no.
Bush. I'm just saying.
All right. So the ninth place delegation, the Native American delegation with 152 points in total. Leading scorers, one with 34, actually both with 34. Would anyone like to guess who the 2 leading scorers are?
Me. Is it hold on, let me think. Venom and Carnage? Is it?
Venom and Carnage both scored 34
Yeah,
points.
You see that? Like, I mean, just hypothetically speaking, if I were to have picked them, right? Like, I mean, those are just two this season. I mean, I don't know. Can you imagine if I played a whole season? Could you imagine, Carlos? Think about that.
I feel like
about that,
Null
Carlos.
scored more than both of them. So that's cool.
Did he?
I mean, he did score both of them, but not more than both of them combined.
Well, not combined. No, he didn't score 70 points.
But 30, listen, 34 points each from the top scorers, nothing to sneeze at. Speaking of low scoring top scorers, though, the South Asian delegation is in 8th place with a total of 172 points. And their leading scorers were Doctor Strange with 30 points. Very disappointing showing from Doctor Strange. And Jean Grey with 31 points.
Wasn't that even low for her? Like, first season, I thought Jean Grey actually scored more points than that, right?
Let's check. Let's see if I can readily pull that up. I think maybe not. because I don't think she had a regular book at the time.
Because I do know that like people did want Jean Grey. She went kind of early in the rounds. First season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think she was a first round pick.
Yeah.
But I don't think that she put up first round
numbers.
I think she put up first round numbers. You know, I think people were still trying to figure out the scoring. People were still trying to figure out the scoring on the racial draft in season
some
one.
People were trying to figure it out. Some people that, you know, had figured it out really, like, it was kind of easy. It was like a math problem. You go, okay, let me do it this way. Though I know nothing about the characters.
I mean, you say people. I only remember one person mollywopping the rest of the league. So
I mean, I was trying to just be inclusive, but I mean,
I remember a moment late in that season where the revelation was made that digital comics were going to count, and all of a sudden the multiracial delegation was just like, they have all of the digital appearances, so this is going to be kind of ugly. And then it was.
So Jean Grey put up 12 points total in season one.
Oh, okay. So wow. So she actually did increase.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But just remember, last season was an 8-week season, and this is a 10-week season. So let's extrapolate the extra, 1 point or so. But
wasn't the scoring different last season? You could have multiple points for the same. What am I trying to say? If you used, whereas this season you only get 1 point per every scoring type.
No, so the main difference is that you could stack antagonists. So if you defeated 5 antagonists in season 1, you would get 5 points rather than in season 2, you just get 1. But so that did, certain characters. I definitely remember someone who defeated 20 antagonists by himself in one book. That man
was that Batman?
No, it was actually Shazam. That was who was part of the Latinx.
Shazam wasn't on my team. So that's actually pretty impressive.
All right. But we continue with the 7th place delegation with a total of 229 points. Jiggity. The Jewish delegation. The Jewish
delegation. How you soldier boy that.
Oh man, well, I can't transition. Speaking of soldiers, I don't know. Carol Danvers is the leading scorer with 50 points. Captain Marvel. Second was Batgirl, so girl power for the Jewish delegation.
Batgirl having that much pop surprised me.
No, I mean, she's basically taken over as the person in the chair for Batman now that Alfred's not there. So, you're going to get her in a lot of the Bat books. I mean, yeah, you're going to get her in a lot of the Bat books. Plus she's part of the regular cast of the Nightwing book. She's going to rack up appearances as far as Bat Family people go. If not more than Dick Grayson, probably just as much as Dick Grayson. But, and generally she's going to be using her computer skills. If she's in the Oracle role, if she's out there with the Bat costume on, then she'll be, using her martial arts skills. She's a light form of Bruce, but only 50 points to show for it. Not like big boy points, I guess.
Still pretty good for
third round pick.
Be a third round pick and a character that had to be rebuilt over the past few years.
That's a good point. And who knows what their plans are for her in the the DC Films world. We may see even bigger expansion of her role.
I'm not so sure we won't see her and her animated self get some more of a push first, because if the Harley Quinn show,
that's a good point,
has another good season, not hard to see them picking up some spin-offs.
Right. And they're not too far, they wouldn't be too far away from doing some kind of like Birds of Prey cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep your eye on the talent that is Barbara Gordon going forward. But that brings us to one of the more hotly contested races. So races, if you will. I'll pick these two delegations in tandem. One of them scored 248. The other one scored 250. Would you like to guess the two delegations?
Carlos, what do you think?
Polynesian scored 248.
Okay, you are correct.
Yeah.
Who's the one that scored 250?
Man, I got 1 for 1.
You're just gonna quit while you're at.
Yeah,
All right.
Black delegation.
Correct.
Oh, there you go.
And as per our rules, that means they finished 5th, which means we can't disrespect them. We can only
yes, we can.
We can only call them the Afro-American delegation. We'll take you up to the 80s. Take you up into the 80s in respectability. Power to the people. As it were. But yeah, 250 points for the Black delegation, led by Nightwing, Black Dick himself.
That's that BBC.
Yeah, and he doesn't even speak with an accent, Kia. But yeah, 58 points for Nightwing and 48 points for T'Challa. It's a good thing they drafted T'Challa. It's a good thing they drafted T'Challa in the first round. It is a good thing that they chose the highest profile Black character as their first pick.
Character.
Isn't it great that they did good strategy using their auto picks? But I don't want to undercount the Polynesian delegation, who their top scorer scored 77 points, and he was also their first pick in Thor Odinson. And their second scorer was their second pick, Storm, who should not have been scooped up yet again, but was in fact scooped up yet again. 2 years in a row that Storm, one more year, and I think she becomes Polynesian in real life. I think we just have to cast her.
You know what? Those two picks are probably, we didn't talk about it as much last week.
Most exciting.
Those are probably the two boldest picks because their backstories were reliant on each other.
Good point.
And Tamati had no idea he was going to be able to get Storm when he basically inserted Storm into his Thor backstory in week 1.
Yeah, that is a good point. Actually, I should shout out the third round pick of Tony Stark, with the one that made us go, wait, Tamati has another lane? So yeah, they came out really strong for the top 3 picks, finished 6th place, which is not bad. Shout out to the Polynesian delegation for staying involved in the race. But that brings us to the top 4 and the other hotly contested race, which ended up not being hotly contested because of some weak performances in the final week. In 4th place, the white delegation with 377 points, led by Superman. I mean, if you're gonna pick a white character to stay white, he'd be in the top 2.
He'd be 2 though.
No, he'd be in the top 3. We forgot about,
Peter Parker.
That's right.
Yeah.
But before I jump to Peter Parker and his MVP-ish performance,
I can't help but remark that the white delegation took Cyclops number 1.
No, Cyborg.
Cyborg
Yeah.
number 1.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, that was a poll. So the people saved us from, I believe.
Well, look what they did.
I listen. I was told by someone that their accountability over entertainment, and the white delegation was very accountable to the people. I believe their other choice. I believe the other choices in the poll were Storm.
Whoops.
Yeah, I believe Storm was one of the other choices. I want to say was it Miles Morales? No, it wasn't Miles Morales. Um, oh, I can't remember offhand, but it was he was going for it. He was going for he was trying to attack different races, and he ended up with Cyborg because the people said no, we're not gonna get you to end up with
Or
a.
Vic was fit to the wolves.
That's right. But yeah, so 17 points for their number one pick. It's not what you want, not what you want. But they did have, weirdly enough, Superman fall to them, and that kept them in the mix. Their other top scorer, wouldn't you know, Jonathan Kent, Superboy.
Yeah.
So the L's are what allowed them to get some W's, as it were. But third place, kind of coming out of nowhere to finish in the top three on the backs of their MVPter at, or 147 points for their third round pick, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, 387 points for the East Southeast Asian delegation. That's 147 points for Spider-Man, 74 points for their number one pick, Captain America.
Damn.
Yeah. They only had, weirdly enough, only one of their draftees put up 0 points. And that draftee is Shang-Chi.
Wow.
I know.
That's surprising.
Something tells me that's not going to happen in season 3 for Shang-Chi.
Right.
Nope.
Wonder Woman effect.
Exactly.
Here it comes.
I mean, maybe we could have readjusted some of the bonus points, and we might think about that in season 3, that if your movie gets a trailer, maybe you should get some bonus points for appearing in the trailer. We can talk about it. But yeah, 0 points for Shang-Chi. But their bold move of drafting the entire Fantastic Four, I'm going to run down their Fantastic Four scoring. 21 points for Mrs. Fantastic, 15 points for Sue Storm, 15 points for Human Torch, and 15 points for The Thing. Nice.
Solid. Yeah.
Yes. Solid for
It
the
was all
Fantastic.
right. It was not too shabby.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty good get from mid-tier draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, and because they stayed on theme, they were able to get some really cool fan art. Shout out to the fans who drew up the Asian American Fantastic Four.
Yep.
But we already, there's no suspense there in the final two. So we'll just dive right into second place.
No, I would just go to the first place. Like second place, right?
I think we should second place deserves a long look and an applause from all of us. No
Led
matter what
by
Kia says.
their
I
top
don't
scorer.
think they do.
Their top scorer was
It's not a trophy. It's not one of those like everybody gets a trophy, Carlos.
Nope.
No.
You're right. They don't.
But guess what? Also, the team that wins doesn't get a trophy because there's no trophy given.
Have you ever seen a documentary called Cool Runnings? It's about a Jamaican bobsled team, and they don't finish the race in their bobsled, but everyone applauds as they walk across the finish line. Losers.
Yeah, because there's no snow in Jamaica. You're like, how did they make it? There's no snow in Jamaica.
Well, I can't transition from Cool Runnings, but I'm gonna try. There are no Icemen on
Don't
this team.
applaud.
Sorry.
No ice.
But speaking of runnings, their second round pick rather, kind of disappointing. 47 points. 47 points for Barry Allen.
Wow.
85 points for the third round pick, Wonder Woman, their top scorer. But the disappointing 67 points from their number one draft pick, Wolverine.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, as top picks go, it's not the worst. It's not a, you know,
What? How much did Superman get full
Superman
altogether?
Superman put up 118 points.
See, you see how that works.
Superman
Mhm.
was in fact in a poll that round, so could not be drafted. But you know,
Well, it could have been put in a poll
but
too, and then
but
he
he
coulda
probably could have
just-
been drafted in the second round. Probably could have been drafted in the second round.
Definitely
Mhm.
drafted in the second round, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh no, he was drafted in the second round. I'm sorry, he was drafted in the second round, but
Not the first pick of the second round, but still drafted in the second
Actually,
round.
I think it was like the fourth pick of the second round, which is even sadder.
is the third pick.
Third
So
pick.
Third
like,
pick, yeah,
yeah,
fourth, third,
It was
yeah.
Supergirl and Carol Danvers before. I'm gonna remember that like Sam Bowie before Jordan. Like,
and I'm gonna remember it because I was like, you know, running around like, what are you doing? But yeah, I mean, next one of, you know, their biggest value pick has to be their 5th round pick in 62 points from Damian Wayne.
yes.
Damn.
I
Yeah.
know.
The one that got away.
But I gotta think that the of their picks, they had all of their picks put up points, but the one pick that probably seemed like on paper at the time to be a great pick that ended up really faltering, it's got to be Victor Von Doom in the 11th round. Victor Von Doom would have been crazy value if he performed the way his reputation would suggest, but he only put up 9 points.
Wow.
I know.
Outscored by Quentin Quire. What the hell is that?
Quinn Quire put up more points than Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom was a guardian of the galaxy.
Yeah. But he just joined the team this week outside of the scoring range. Narrowly missed. He probably put up 9 points in that. He probably put up 9 points in that appearance.
Right.
By far their worst pick based on value has got to be their 4th round pick. It was probably a little bit too much vanity there. Wanted to flex on us with Ileana Rasputin, aka Magic, who 15 points. 15 points in the 4th round. That's not value. It's okay. I mean, actually, it's okay.
So what did we learn?
It's okay for mid-tier. It's just not okay for the high standard that the multiracial delegation has set for us. You know, if we're talking about the black delegation, it's great.
Let's speak on it.
Yeah. Magic's one of those characters that I, you know, for the longest time, she's always been on the brink of going huge. She gives you the magic. She checks off the magic box. She checks off the warrior box. She checks off the
Gives
X-Men
you the
lore.
magic stick.
But you see, Arturo, you stepped on my joke. I was just about to say that if the black delegation had drafted her, she would have been Black Girl Magic. But, you know, I got it in there.
She's got the magic stick.
But yeah, you know, on paper it's still a great team. You know, sometimes the performances don't really fall into place the way you'd like, but this delegation doesn't have any problem worrying about that because they have the Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, whatever MVP label you want to put on it, 198 points out of 479. So more than a third of the picks. I mean, a third of the points scored by one man. That man is Batman. Nobody else even scored 45.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Insane.
I'm gonna go.
Mike, can you do us a favor? Can you just take off Carlos's camera? Like, I just don't want to work with Carlos right now.
Stretching out a little bit. Oh
Yeah. Let's say Batman put up like 80. Let's say Batman put up like 80 and not 198. That would have been 350. Wait, is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, around 350. I'm just estimating. 350 puts you in third place.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, fourth place.
Oh,
So right just below the white delegation.
So
But,
once again, the bat comes to save the day.
Yeah,
not once again, because the team who had Batman last year didn't win.
that is a good point.
Oh, that's
third
true.
place for Batman because Wonder Woman came to play. This year apparently the glass ceiling came for Wonder Woman, as she only put up 80% of the points that she put up in. We call that a callback, people. 80% of the points in season 1.
The
if
movie
we're
was the callback. Let's be honest. That movie itself, oof,
Oof.
oof. That was
if
the
we're
callback.
talking value, Null, that I think that paid off. That certainly paid off a little higher than I estimated.
So-
Carlos? Were you targeting him, or were you one of those you just lucky you fell in your lap situations?
No, I wanted Null, and it was this thing where Martina and I would go back and forth every week. Every week would be like, "What about Magneto?" And then Martina would be like, "No, I know it's like a big name, but it's not going to work out." And then they'll be like, "What about Null?" It's like, "Not yet. No one's looking at Null yet." And then when we finally got to a spot where it was like, okay, I think Null is going to score way more points than anyone else on our list. We have to take Null here. It doesn't matter if no one else is looking, because if someone else takes him, we're going to be like really salty about it.
And 6th round, let's look at the other characters who were drafted in the 6th round, shall we?
The Native American delegation would have taken Null.
I think Venom went the pick before, so
that was solid.
34
so
points.
Yeah, so in the 6th round, these are the different. I'm not going to go in order because I don't remember. Actually, I can do that right now. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right. So this was a reverse round. So in the 6th round, it went Black Canary, who put up 8 points. Wanda Maximoff, who put up 4 points. Black Luke Cage, put up 28 points. Venom, who put up 34 points.
Good pick.
And then Null, who put up 41. A lot of symbiote value right there.
Yeah.
Monica Rambeau, who put up 20 points.
The
Yara
difference
Flor.
being, I don't see. Oh, sorry.
1 point for Yara Flor.
Yara Flor. But I fleeced them. I got Yara Flor.
Who's on your supplemental?
Yeah.
Where she belongs with the 1 point. Yeah, Conan put up 36 points, which is solid.
And the bottom.
And 39 points for Human Torch. So yeah, no, sorry, 15 points for Human Torch. I was reading that wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, like the symbiotes, they did their thing in round 6. But what else were you going to say, Arturo, about the?
Well, the thing about Null is I think Carlos caught him at the peak of his visibility, because I certainly don't see him as a character who's going to stick around as long as Carnage or Venom.
No, for sure.
He was brought in as a monster heel for one specific story that seems to have run its course.
Yep.
And he helped to get Eddie Brock over,
He helped to get Eddie Brock over, and I'll defend the Yara Flora thing, because up until very recently, we thought she was going to be a CW show.
That is a good point. And her book starts next week, so we were just a little bit off on when she was going to get her push. We thought she had a CW show coming. I think she's still going to get a push of some sort, depending on how the book goes. It's just a matter of trying to, it's always a little tricky trying to figure out where the scoring period is going to line up when you're dealing with the solicitation.
Will digital be in play next year?
Yes.
Season?
Digital will be in play every year, because we are a pro digital podcast.
Carlos, you're in the thick of it. How does that alter your game planning for next season?
I mean, I wasn't looking at digital, so I mean, I know that it counts, but I was really just looking at books. and I
Yeah.
wasn't looking at digital, and I'm going to have to because again, I didn't realize Batman had a weekly digital
Yeah.
book. So what
Well,
else?
here's the thing that really grinds my gears. There's a little character named Jace Fox, who is the lead of a book called The Next Batman, and he is the Black Batman, and he has had a weekly book that is run every single week throughout this scoring period. And every time I get the scores back from the Fantasy Comics League, it's like undrafted characters, top undrafted characters. I'm like, look, there's Tim Fox out there putting up
Wow.
8-10 points every week. Just
Yeah, the digital thing make you more tempted to get back in the ring?
Kia.
Yes, actually, it does. That actually makes me want to start reading comic books.
Wow.
Yeah, like that digital aspect. Like I need to like know that I can still win with that digital aspect. So yeah, there might be another draftings coming back. Carlos,
Wow.
beware.
The
Because all
the
I do is
digital
breathe
thing
fire.
is it's not. First of all, this whole process has shown me like there needs to be one site that cleanly reports what is coming out in solicitations because it is so difficult to get through these different sites. Like
Yeah, you have to call people.
just like the formatting of it is rough. But I don't know that I saw digital titles on some of those solicitation sites,
You
so I
didn't.
didn't know.
Yeah,
So like
no.
when we were counting,
Typically they
No.
only send out solicitations for the print books because they're
that
for
makes
the
sense.
comic
That's what you're
stores.
soliciting, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so that's it's like it's a wild card. I would never have known about new Batman, Coke 2, as it were, having a weekly digital. I because it's not anywhere to be. No, I would need to have gone to look for it and known where to look. So
And
I
an
would
even
have to
more
figure that
tricky
out.
thing is that DC will do a thing where the digital books will come out different days of the week. So they'll have a new digital book come out. They'll have a Monday book, a Tuesday book, a Wednesday, whatever, even including Saturday. So, you'll think, oh, this character hasn't really done anything. And then boom, there's a Wonder Woman book that came out on Saturday and she put up
Wow.
20 points. That happened a lot with Harley Quinn in season 1. Harley had her digital book that would come out on Fridays. And you'd be like, oh, all right, well, it's a big week for Harley.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, look, this is why it's a multifaceted game, and I guess it's a good time as any to talk about the different facets of the game because we have season awards. Kier, are you hyped about the season awards even?
Not really.
What was the championship winner? Who won the championship? That's a good season award.
I'm just gonna feel like that season 2 doesn't count. Like I feel like it really doesn't.
It's like season 2 of Friday Night Lights. We just forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like the second Nightmare on Elm Street movie,
Yeah, exactly.
Or like the second, third, fourth, and fifth seasons of Heroes.
Oh, what a
Man.
burn.
Ooh, all right. There's some storylines, guys. So I'm gonna start with. It's only right that we start with this award, the LVP. The LVP, the least valuable pick award. The nominees were Vision, Supergirl, Krakoa, and Colossus. Kia, who of those picks, who would have been your pick?
Colossus.
Arturo?
I'm gonna go with Colossus also, but I do have to say the gap between casting and performance for me goes to Krakoa, because I thought Krakoa, the Black Delegation, was an amazing pick, and then so you play the games, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, nobody nominated Yara Flor. Maybe we want to rethink this, but Yara Flor. But yes, Carlos, who would have been your pick?
Based on draft position, I probably would have gone with Supergirl.
That is you know what? That's a really strong pick based on draft position. That is the first pick of the second round. I would say if there was a bust, at least value. That is by definition very unvaluable. but I think that Vision was also a second round pick.
Yeah, but when Vision was selected, Superman was off the board. Superman was still
Yeah,
on the
he was
board when
literally the next pick after Superman, though.
right. Superman
Right.
came 2 picks after Supergirl.
Yeah, that is a good point. Well, the people felt differently. A Colossus by a 50% margin
Wow.
was the least valuable pick. I think that Gordy
Pick
was
abilities here.
probably marshaling the forces of whiteness, reminding people that we definitely should have. Oh, hold on a second. Yes. Yeah, Colossus. I don't think his draft position was that high. I think you're right. I think Supergirl is probably the right choice here. But the people felt that Colossus, why was he even drafted at all? That's probably their thought process. The boldest pick of the season, guys. The nominees were Native American Lex Luthor, Polynesian Tony Stark, multiracial Conan, and white Luke Cage. Kia, of those picks, who was the boldest?
Oh, see, this is hard because okay, I initially wanted to go with white Luke Cage, but I now really want to go with Conan mainly because I kept thinking it was Beastmaster the whole season. So like, yeah, that was definitely really bold. And I mean, when I think of Conan, I think of like the old school like TV show, Conan the Adventurer, Man of Bravery.
Is that Kevin
Is
Sorbo?
or is that no?
That was
That's
Hercules.
Hercules.
Oh, yes.
See,
Sorry.
Conan. I think Conan is it. When everybody says Conan, people think of Hercules or Beastmaster. They never actually think of actual Conan.
See, I was very in favor of Native American Lex Luthor, particularly when you had white Superman. You know, I think that there is the idea of there being like a nativist who's feeling like there's a Kryptonian colonizer who's coming into our world as the Omni Man of the Kryptonian race, and trying to sound the alarm about don't trust him, and then people just lavish him with adoration, and how that would grind his gears because he's seen how this movie ends. But what about you, Arturo?
I'm in your boat. And somebody raised the point a little while back that you want to say white Luke Cage, but that's become a trope when people ask about recasting characters. But Native American Lex Luthor is a genuinely original idea, and just like you said, it totally reinvents the dynamic between Cal and Lex, and also puts a lot of uncomfortable questions around Lex as he keeps, if it's the Lex we know, but Native American, that really creates some genuinely interesting path for that character.
Right. We are joined by a very, very, very special guest, Bryan from the Fantasy Comics League, the top scorer, the scoring guru, as it were. Welcome. This is your first appearance on the Racial Draft Podcast. How's it going?
Did I lose you? Sorry.
No problem.
Cut out on me. Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well. We just finished running through the scoring for the season. Let me know if you need me to run it down one more time. The top scoring delegations and who we thought some of the value picks were of the season. But just overall, what was your take on the picks from a pure Fantasy Comics League perspective?
Well, I'd say the craziest thing I think, which is cool about the way you guys run it, is how you leave some of your choices up to a poll. Because then you see people like, I don't think Peter Parker wasn't taken until like the third round, right? Because he was up for a poll in the first two. So it's crazy to see some of those like real top scorers like not getting drafted until much later in the game than when they should be, technically. But I've learned from this. I don't read DC. I leave that up to Sean, who most of you are familiar with. But I never realized.
I think we lost you for a second.
how
Okay.
bogus of a character Batman is. Like that. Sorry.
Yeah, he is a what we like to call a game breaker.
Right. Yeah, no, he's completely bogus. Like in our regular division play that we have, which is strictly Marvel,
Mhm.
there is one division that's banned Peter Parker from play. And just looking at just the disparity between how heavy DC leans on Batman compared to like Spider-Man, he's ahead of the game with everybody else in Marvel, but it's nowhere close to how much Batman's, wiping the floor with the other DC characters.
Well, especially if you take out the other three Trinity members.
Yeah.
If you it's one thing to compare Batman to Superman and say that he outscores Superman by about 70 points. It's another thing to say that he just laps a character like Green Lantern, who put up in our scoring period 16 points. And then you have Batman over here putting up 198 points.
Yeah. I think Sean told me the other day, we were only 17, 18 weeks into the year. He's already broken 300 points, which is absurd. Like I think Spider-Man just broke 200.
Yeah, so this has definitely prompted some discussions about how we're going to structure season 3, because we may have to do some different kind of weighting so that there's a bigger cost to adding Batman to your roster than just the one draft pick.
So if you don't mind, I know you just went over this, but just for my pleasure, I guess, what was the breakdown you had for total scores? Because I joined a little bit late because I updated that in our database. I did a total score for each team, so I want to see how close I am. I know you gave some bonus points there as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we did bonus points based on appearances on other media, so there's definitely going to be some extras here and there for the characters. But we had 479 for the Latinx delegation, 435 for the multiracial delegation, 387 for the East Southeast Asian delegation, 377 for the white delegation. Then we had 250 for the black delegation, 248 for the Polynesian delegation, 229 for the Jewish delegation, 172 for the South Asian, and then 152 for the Native American delegation.
Okay, yeah, I think that aligns with what I had just from a straight up regular scoring, not any of these bonus points.
Right.
Except for I have the black team with 244 and Polynesian with 247.
Right, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact.
So I guess those bonus points for the black team really boosted.
Right,
them
I'm
over
trying to figure out who would have put up bonus points for the black delegation.
I don't know. I mean, who did they have before Commissioner Gordon? I don't think he would do it. Or Red Hood.
Was it Hawkeye? No, maybe not Hawkeye. Oh,
Agent 13.
Oh,
probably,
yes,
right?
yes, that's right. It would have been it would have been Sharon Carter, aka the power broker.
Sharon Carter. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. So that was really exciting. So you're saying, I guess, Latinx won it outright because you did the weekly scores, but the whole season winner, you're going just straight up by points, right?
Exactly.
So have you given a thought into, so the way we do it with the division, and sorry, I don't mean to take over your podcast here.
I mean, you're a very special guest, so we wanted to give you the opportunity.
Yeah. So the way the standard division plays is we do 4-month seasons, and then if you win the month, you get 2 points. Second place gets you, win the division, win the month, you get 3. Second gets 2. Third and fourth get 1, and then fifth gets 0. So we have 5-person divisions, and then at the end of the 4 months, it's whoever scores the most based on those monthly point victories. And so it made me think, I wonder, do you think there would have been a big change in who won it?
You mean if we did sort
for
of
you,
either
if you did it something like, okay, if you get first place in a week, you did like 9 points, 8 points, and did it kind of that way. Because, Batman, I think, like we said, is going to not give you an unfair advantage, because what's fair,
Mhm.
I think you, me, and Sean have discussed the definition of fair in the past. But, if you just did it on a week, because I think it's rare, but I think we did just witness a week where Batman didn't show up. And so that, would take them down.
Mhm. I don't know. I mean,
I
I
assume they
kind of
didn't
go.
finish first that week. I don't remember. I don't think
Yeah.
they did.
I mean, my sense of it is that I still want the characters' values to be reflected. Obviously, when there's that kind of massive disparity with Batman, it does overly weight things. But then again, that is a reflection of how important that character is. So it's like I said, I think it's more about trying to structure the teams in the right kind of way to accurately reflect how outsized his influence is, and then hopefully the competition will work itself out in that respect. I'll go ahead and talk about. We've danced around it enough on the podcast. This is by far not set in stone, because we're still going to potentially debate it. But we're thinking about doing a salary cap game in the third season, where essentially the characters will have a bankroll, and they'll be able to use their bankroll on the characters, and they'll have to figure out exactly how much they want to spend if they want Batman on their team. And if they have Batman on the team, then they won't have enough to spend to get both Batman and Peter Parker, or maybe they will get Batman and Peter Parker and a whole bunch of $1 a whole bunch of $1 characters after
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, that's that. So would you be determining that value? Because, look, as long as you can run a draft however you see fit, and that's fine. Like, I really dig the fact that you have, what is it, 10 teams? No, you have 9 teams or something, and like with what, 12 each on a team. Like, that's cool. I like that. The more characters involved in stat keeping and drafting scores, the better.
We lost
That's
you. Okay.
more variety. So I mean, like, however you want to do the drafting is cool, but I'm just interested, like, so who's going to determine those values? Because,
Well, no, I think what we'll do is that we will bid, and we'll bid until
okay,
yeah. I mean, the
Sure.
delegations will bid until they decide amongst themselves how much of their bankroll they want to spend on one character. So someone might choose to spend half their budget on Batman because of how important of a character he could
important. That's a very generous word right there. I would say overrated, but I assume that would upset a lot of people.
I mean,
Adequately rated.
all right, so let's get into it. So I've had this debate about Batman before. Like, I both acknowledge how outsized his influence is, but I also acknowledge how effective he is at making other characters important. If you look at some of the other so-called top tier characters in DC or in comics kind of generally, I think Marvel does do a good job of using Spider-Man to elevate other characters, and I think that in that way he is comparable to Batman. But they've tried with other people. They tried with Wolverine. They've tried with kind of Deadpool, so to speak.
Iron Man recently,
Iron Man,
he's been
yeah,
top tier.
but I think that Batman is effective at getting eyeballs on other characters. And that's another reason that he shows up as much as he does, because the readership responds favorably to, like, if Batman's there, then it must mean that it's important.
He's like the watcher in Marvel events. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I mean, yeah, in a way.
Shows up at important times.
Yeah, he shows up in important times and people take notice, and if Batman doesn't show up, unfortunately, people think that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's, take a character like Harley Quinn. She has shot up in popularity, and it's because she came in through the Batman mythos. The Joker is probably not the character that he is without the fact that he's Batman's arch nemesis.
Harley's that had the chance to, as a character, I mean, develop away from Batman. I think the Margot Robbie take on her legitimized her as much as anything else. And the cartoon is solely about Harley and Ivy.
Yeah,
You know,
but I think
Batman-
the cartoon is the way that she earned her way into the hearts of so many, so many people in the first place.
I love the cartoon. Just saying.
Action is excellent.
No, I was stunned at how much that show progressed even from year 1 to year 2.
Mhm.
But that is very much her story. You know, Batman and Gordon do appear,
Mhm.
but they appear. We're getting a critique of Batman and of
Right.
James Gordon in that setting. So I don't know. I think even if Harley was the breakout of the Batman animated series, I think her influence has spread beyond that. And I don't know. I don't. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I do think it undersells her fandom a little bit to attribute that much to her being in the presence of Batman compared to, let's say, Ghostmaker right now,
Mhm.
or
Who the hell is
Clown Killer.
Ghostmaker?
Huh?
Who the hell is Ghostmaker?
So Ghostmaker just showed up, and he's basically the evil prep school version of Batman, in that he can do a lot of the things that Batman can, but he does it A, better, and B, with more of a more snark about him.
Yes.
And they're clearly positioning him as a colleague / rival, and probably another blood enemy down the line. You got Clown Killer, who's presented as a victim of Joker violence, who's now a teen Punisher like figure.
Right.
I don't know. To me, both of those characters, and with the Miracle Molly, who we just met,
Yes.
Matches Malone,
Mhm.
who is positioned as an anarchist, quote unquote pastiche,
Mhm.
and critic of Gotham capitalism in particular.
Yeah.
I
She's
want to see where these characters.
Occupy Gotham, as it were.
Yeah, in a very loose corporate America sense of it.
Right.
You know, I'm very leery of where those characters are going to be in 5 years' time.
That's fair, but I think that just the fact that they can use Gotham as a launching pad for characters, and even say someone like Punchline, right? You can introduce a character like Punchline in the Batman mythos because everyone's eyes are on the Batman mythos, and while it's ultimately they have to stand on their own in those early stages where characters are either rise or fall, in that past that initial push, they're going to get the eyes on them to get them through that initial part. And then again, whether there's enough there for the character to stick around beyond that is ultimately up to them, but it gets them in the door.
I think that's the difference between the way DC uses Batman to introduce characters and to kind of give them some sort of cachet, and the way Marvel uses Spider-Man is that the characters that Batman is introducing are Batman characters from Batman books that live in Gotham. And Spider-Man will be used to ramp up characters that may never appear in a Spider-Man book, or will not appear in a Spider-Man book again for years.
Mhm.
But because they use Batman to introduce new characters in Gotham, it makes the DC universe very centralized to Gotham, when so many, 90% of their other titles don't exist in Gotham, so
Right.
so that's why they end up leaning so heavily on Gotham books, is because Batman doesn't leave Gotham, and so all of these characters have to exist in this one city, which by now, like, it would just be that if you just looked at a rooftop in Gotham, you saw a crime fighter or a vigilante or a villain of some sort, because there's just so many Batman characters.
Like what percentage of job listings in Gotham are henchmen?
Henchmen.
Like if you opened up, like, what's the job site You know, like if
Indeed.
you Indeed, you open up Indeed, it's like we've got 8 henchman roles. You know, it's a very competitive market.
Must
If
wear
you think next
penguin
door-
costume.
If you think next door is bad in your town,
Right.
Like Zillow is just supervillain headquarters. Like
That's
it's
it.
just,
You have to click which abandoned type of factory you want to look at.
right.
To
But
say
yeah, I mean,
they're-
but
that's the
again,
issue.
you know, and it's a bigger DC issue, right? Because like Marvel takes place in quote unquote the real world, so you can have New York,
Right.
and you could have 12 superheroes who have headquarters in New York, and because their neighborhoods are real neighborhoods that we know about, you know, we here who live in New York are like, oh yeah, I understand. You know, north of 14th Street, you know, Daredevil's rocking it. You know, but down in Wall Street, Spider-Man swinging around, and you know,
Right.
up at Harlem, Luke Cage is, you know, he's staying on foot. He's not driving around. You know, you can't really drive anywhere. And then the Avengers, they're up in their tower and they're flying off into space. Like it, the geography of it makes it so that even though they're happening in the same city, it doesn't feel like one person's domain.
Right.
I
Whereas,
imagine that in Marvel NYC, the MTA map has a little color, a little guide. This is Luke Cage's neighborhood. This is Spider-Man's neighborhood.
yeah, like even the fact that you could actually have Miles Morales be like, "I'm the Spider-Man of Brooklyn," like you know, like
Right.
you're like, that's Manhattan Spider-Man, even though he lives in Queens, weirdly.
Brian, well, you're here. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
How has your approach changed, if at all? Let's say even in the past 2-3 years, as far as maintaining the gameplay, the database work, the nuts and bolts. Has that changed for you much?
Yeah, so I guess to give a quick behind the scenes rundown of how this works, since I kind of just jumped in here shooting fire with points. So this was Sean and I set this up in like 2014, February 2014, right? And back then it was just me and Sean on our old podcast, it's Mixed Marvel Arts, which is now defunct because I decided to have kids, and that just throws everything off. So 2014 to I'd say probably about 2016, it was just me and Sean. And I've gone back and I've listened to some of those Mixed Marvel Arts podcast episodes from the early days. And Sean has always approached it with a more broad definition of things. And I've always been more, no, this needs to be very specific, you know? So in that sense, in those first 2 years, Sean's always been there to try to like whittle me down and open me up to definitions. 2016, we started accepting other people to help flesh it out. And that's when we set up the division play, I'd say. But around that time, I was basically writing everything down by hand because this was back before I read and bought every Marvel comic. I would go to the comic shop, and the books that I didn't buy, I would just skim through, and I only kept track of the characters that we had drafted. And I'm sorry, I'm going to ramble about the history about all this stuff. I know you just wanted a very specific answer to 2 to 3 years, but I think it's these 2 to 3 years, there's been, I'd say, a lot of different approach, I'd say, to how I've handled it. But I think to explain just how crazy it is you have to understand that I was just sneaking in the books at the comic shop with like my phone, typing notes. And I got a girlfriend, my wife at the time, around 2016 or 17, and I would take her with me. And I would have her pull up her notepad on her phone, and I would be flipping through the comic, and I'd say, okay, Spider-Man got this here, and this here. And it was like I had my own, not to demean my wife, like I had my own secretary, which was great for the fantasy league. And she was dictating my notes. But then when we grew a little bit more, that's when we started being like, okay, we need to put out like an estimated appearance on a monthly basis for people that are drafting who don't read the comics, can go and be like, oh, well, I see that, you know, Captain America looks like he's going to have 4 appearances this month. He'll be a good pick. And that way people who don't read every comic can still get kind of an educated opinion about who's going to be hot and who's not going to be showing up a lot in a month. And I think we had about 4 divisions. And at that time, I was still just doing it by hand. I think I put it into a table in Word at that point. And I was just hand numbering, counting all the points. And then about 2018, 18, I was like, I really need to put this in an Excel database at some point here. I don't know database programs, so that's why it's not a legitimate database, but Excel works for what we're trying to do. And then in 2019, I want to say, is when I started being like, look, we need to track every character. So that's when we moved from tracking just the characters we drafted in our division play to drafting every conceivable possible character that somebody would want to draft if they were to do this on their own. And that shot up the amount of work that we had to do by a lot,
Right.
because then I had to start buying
Every book.
in every comic so I could actually sit down and read through them all. And then that meant I was keeping track of, I don't know, random D-list characters, because I was like, look, you know, I don't like this character, but hypothetically, if other people are playing this game using our stats, they might want to draft, you know, I can't even think of like a D-list character, because as far as
Gary
like,
Bill?
Let's say
if you have
D-Man.
36 appearances, sure, D-Man, yeah, we would track him. And I'm like, somebody might want to draft him, so let's make sure we're keeping track of his scores. So
Yeah.
to tell you
can I-
how much
can
it's
I-
changed, I guess
So can I jump in real quick? Because I remember
a
like
lot,
back when I was,
technically.
you know,
so there's
back-
a lot of behind the screen stuff.
Brian, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, because I for a little while I was, you know, kicking around all these different ideas because I, you know, play fantasy sports, so I was trying to bring some of my fantasy sports ideas into the game. And you know, one thing that I had thought about is a game kind of similar to what we were talking about with the salary cap game, but like instead of doing salary, just do it by appearances. You know, where you have a certain number of appearances, and you know, based on how you put out the previews of expected appearances, and you can draft, you have, I don't know, 12 20 appearances, and you say, I'm just going to draft up to this many characters leading up, you know, to my total appearances, and have the game work that way. You know, I just think there's a lot of different variations once you do set up the massive database of characters.
Yeah, and ideally at some point it will get pushed out to a computer internet thing where people can actually just draft through an online database and like run their own stuff as they see fit. But that requires time and money that I do not have at this time. So
and this is a good time for you to plug your Patreon, Fantasy Comic League Patreon, because you know, if you guys wanted to set up your own Fantasy Comics League, you know, we've done our own thing here, but if you've got some ideas, if you've got some group of friends that you want to do comics with, let everybody know what the Patreon is.
Yeah, I think it's just Fantasy Comic League, whatever, patreon.com/Fantasy Comic League, something. I rarely check in on that because, to be self-deprecating, I mean, I know I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my horn. It's a lot of work, right? Doing this Fantasy Comic League, like stat keeping stuff, right? But that there's really nothing, I don't want to say nothing of value, because I think these stats are very valuable and cool to look at.
Yeah, you're definitely selling yourself short. Like, you guys should see,
and great
like,
for a way to play a game like this.
Look,
but like a Patreon, it's like there's not like a monthly newsletter for you or anything like that. You know, it's just here's stats. Like, so it's a great product. I think it's great. I don't want to undersell myself, but as far as like getting a return on investment, like if you're not playing the game, like you're really getting nothing out of these stats for the most part, I feel. Unless you're also a comic book nerd and like stuff like this, then maybe you will. But I don't know. Go to Patreon. That's a great point. Don't let me understand. Like, give me all your money, and I will build a beautiful database.
But you know, as Mike knows from playing fantasy sports, if you want the stats, you want the stats.
Yes.
So that is a valuable service.
Yeah, and unlike fantasy sports, Bryan is gonna make up scorecards for you guys like every week. You know, you'll get the nice little scorecards
if you reach a certain plateau.
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, you gotta sell it, Bryan.
Here's I don't want to sell too hard because I am so invested and think that this product is so valuable. I don't want to sell it so hard that there's an onslaught of people being like, oh, give me a division, because, you know, like I said, I've got 2 kids. You know, my wife is asking me to, you know, give her another one. So like my life's about to get even more hectic again soon. And I can balance it all because luckily I think I have a pretty solid work-life balance. But you know,
So-
I don't
so-
want to over deliver and not be able to deliver. You know, there's always that fear of failure. I have that bad issue. So,
So-
Let the nerds
so I
pay for your
shouldn't-
diapers.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you should not set up a Patreon tier to where you could name your child. Like, is this what like at the let's say $8,000 tier? Like you know you get a middle initial.
yeah, let's see now, how much does it cost to set up a database? Give me $20,000 and you can name my next kid. Although my first kid's name is Parker, so that's my
Nice.
influence. Being Peter Parker is my favorite.
So
my
next
second
one is
kid
Wayne. Is that a
Lincoln.
like?
No, my wife thinks that Batman is a creepy online stalker dude because all he does in the movies is click clack on his computer. She is though a very big Harley Quinn fan.
Ooh.
So
We were just talking about her.
so her if she wants a daughter, we're leaning towards Quinzel would be our daughter's
okay.
name, maybe 2 different names. So that's what so you hear it here first. If we have a daughter, that's the name, but
Have you
I think it
considered
might be
Khaleesi?
hush-hush. No.
Nice.
Brian, one more question.
Yeah, I'm here for all the questions.
As readers, one term that gets thrown around a lot is event fatigue.
Oh yeah.
Does that come up with players, or are players just kind of gobbling up these appearances as they come?
I mean, I think for the most part, so we had at our height, like I said, in 2018 or 19, we had about 10 divisions. And that was, 5 people per division. So we had about 50 people participating across various divisions, which was like our height. And then I, got overwhelmed with kids that I said, look, I can't do all this for you people for free. I'll definitely be willing to keep it up some more, but you're going to have to, invest in our Patreon a little bit if you want to do more divisions. So I decided to break it down to just keep it 3 divisions, just so we have that as like an offering. And everybody that's part of those 3 divisions is great, but I'm not trying to besmirch them at all. But I don't think the majority of them are the type that would get burned out on comic events, because I don't think they would get burned out on comics, because I don't think they're not reading like every single comic. So I think they're taking the division play and the fantasy league as a very casual thing, just like I think they do with their comic. And this makes it sound like I'm insulting the people in my division. I'm in my divisions. They're great. They've been around us for several years, but I don't think they're worried about event fatigue, because I don't think they're reading every big event, basically, is what I'm saying.
Now, what I was wondering about with the event fatigue is,
If that makes sense. Is that the question you're going for, or a different one?
It does.
what I was wondering about is because I know from every now and then checking in on Sean with DC had some pretty big events last year, and they would have events where every single character would show up in their event, and having to score, for instance, the Dark Knight metal event. Arturo, you remember that event, I imagine.
Like I remember Root Canal, yes.
I mean, between the different varieties of Batman, the Batman who smokes weed, I think, is
a Batman who tries hard.
Or the fact that they'd have a strategy conference, and there'd be 50 heroes, but they wouldn't say them by name, so you'd have to go through and look at like the different costume variations and say like, which Green Lantern is that?
That's awful.
Is that Donna Troy? But it was a lot. But so that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about event fatigue.
I think event fatigue with characters showing up a lot. That's a lot. And then the fact that DC, like you said, puts out 5 different versions of Batman, and they have how many different timelines. And I'm like, it hurts my head when Sean tries to explain, I guess, why this Batman doesn't count as the main Batman anymore, because they're from New 52 or from Prime or something. I don't know. It's very confusing to me.
Right.
You're not alone.
But Marvel also has like, the Heroes Reborn thing. And
that's stupid right now.
how does that, how do you guys decide what counts, what doesn't count?
So my biggest tool, right, is the Marvel database, their little fandom Marvel Wiki database. And I know that's just pretty much updated by a bunch of, comic fans that are going in there and updating the comics, but they do a really good job of showing you every character that's in a book. So that helps a lot. And then so with Heroes Reborn, they've said, oh, this is a different timeline. And that's how I was going to approach it anyway. If it's a different timeline, then they don't count as our main 616 characters. So that saves me some time, but we are counting the Squadron Supreme this go round, because the way I view it is this is probably their story about Mephisto messing with the universe. So I feel like they deserve it. We hadn't been counting them before because they hadn't met our 36 issue minimum or 6 issues within the past year or something like that. But now we're counting them because I think this is their story. But
I would say
that story is going to be good.
And I would say Blade counts because he clearly remembers the main timeline.
Yeah, he definitely does, because he scored some points for somebody, right? In the last week.
10 points for the Latinx delegation, so that helped to solidify his dominating season win.
Yeah, that was
so basically though, even though you have decided that this event isn't canon for scoring for almost all of the characters, you still have to go back and read them to see what the characters you do decide to count get done in those books.
Oh, and I mean, I think with the way this story is going, I mean, Blade counts, and there's a good chance like Thor might count. I think this event is unique in that it's set up as a different universe, but by the end of it, it could very well be all of our heroes just waking up or something. So I think this event is worth reading, I mean, I read every book as it is for the most part, unless it's so far out of left field.
But Bryan,
like that we're not going to count anybody. Like I stopped reading Avengers Mech Strike, so I was like, this doesn't count, so I'm just not going to read it anymore.
Well, Bryan, I have a question.
But,
This kind of ties into the question that I often have about retcons. Like how far back do you go with a retcon? If it turns out that it's revealed that they're all the 616 characters, it's not an actual alternate universe, it was just a spell, for instance, and these are the mainstream versions of the characters, and it gets undone. Do you have to go back through the issues and rescore them based on new knowledge? Or like, if a great example is the Skrulls.
And I have usually what Skrulls? Did you just spoil something from this week?
No, I'm just saying in general, the Skrulls.
Okay. Like during Secret Invasion, that was probably a real big nightmare.
Yes.
No, there's definitely been times where I've gone back and taken points away from a character or had to add points back into a character from a few weeks back based on, something that was revealed later, being like, oh, this wasn't really them. And it's a pain in the butt, but it hasn't really happened to a major degree where this event would, But usually it's just mainly a lot of minor characters that I make notes of, being like, oh, I guess I need to go add this character back in. And I let other stuff build up. And I say, nobody cares about this guy anyway. I'm not going to adjust his points. But for the Avengers like this, I would definitely go back and reread and fix the points as necessary. But I don't think we're going to find that out this month.
Yeah.
How long is it? It's like a 2 or 3 month event. Probably 2, right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. I feel like they'll take us into the summer, but not through the summer.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't care about Squadron Supreme. So,
Yeah, thankfully no one drafted any Squadron Supreme members in the racial draft, so I don't have to feign interest.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody... Go ahead.
I mean, the last time one of them was really relevant was Hyperion in Hickman's Avengers, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, what would you... So what do we decide on Nighthawk? Is Nighthawk, the David Walker Nighthawk, he's from our universe, right?
What do you mean? The current Squadron Supreme, like Mephisto Squadron Supreme team guy?
No, so there was so weirdly enough, so they did a racial draft, if you will. They made Nighthawk black, and that has stuck. You know, he wasn't always black. But he had a run that was a written by David Walker, where he, you know, was basically Marvel's version of Batman, based out of Chicago, doing a lot of busting of corrupt cops. He ended up dying, I believe, in the Occupy Avengers book, but obviously there's now a new Nighthawk who is from a different universe, and I don't remember whether they identified which universe he's from, but you know, he's part of the current Squadron Supreme.
Yeah, I don't think there's carryover between the two. Okay, I think all the current Squadron Supreme characters are considered a different universe because they're called Mephisto's Semicrylium or whatever they call it, and they're the Squadron Supreme of America. So there's definitely something strange going on with them where they're not. And I know there's like a dozen different versions of Hyperion too, aren't they? Like he's from a different universe, right? Like the one that we do know normally.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the Squadron Supreme, as I understand it, are all from a different universe, but they may not all be from the same universe. This version, this post Secret Wars version of the Squadron Supreme, might be from worlds that got destroyed in the run up, in the time runs out universe.
So this is like an alt universe team of an alt universe team, which is annoying. We used to have alt universe as a team affiliation in Division play. It got confusing, so we got rid of it.
Comics, everybody.
Yeah.
I am very very anti alt universe storylines for a variety of reasons, and if your head is hurting, then we're simpatico. That's what I'm saying.
But go back to one other thing there, because I think the one about you're talking about retcons, I think it's an important distinction there, right? Because most likely a retcon is going to qualify as a character development point for somebody. So we would definitely acknowledge the fact that a retcon has taken place by a character's background changing or something being different. The way we kind of do that, we've reeled that in, I think, is if a character development happens, right? Like say somebody dies, and then 3 issues later, they're like, oh, nope, I wasn't dead. Or they come back to life. They don't get a character development for coming back so soon. Like has to be a 6-month buffer between a character development being undone in order for it to count again.
So you're saying that in the X-Men world, the fact that people die and come back in the exact same issue, you're not getting character developments for that? What?
Yeah. Yeah, we decided to scratch the Krakoan character deaths for that reason. I think so we gave it to Professor X at the beginning of that whole run because it was like pretty monumental that the head of Krakoa dies, right? Even though we knew they were going to bring him back. Then we also counted it for any of the ones that died in X of Swords over in Outworld or wherever that was, because they came back and they got messed up. So it's not like the same.
Like Rockslide, for instance.
Yeah. And then I think the only other time we've given a character development for a character dying in the Krakoan age was recently. We gave it to Pixie because she just went up in Way of X and told the dude to shoot her in the face with a shotgun. And that was like character development in the sense that she's willing to get herself knocked off, you know, which it's not that she died, it's that she willingly let herself die, which was a big deal.
Yeah. So, and in the context of the story, it was made as a big deal.
Yeah. So like just regular death in the X-Men does not count for the most part.
So so like Laura Kinney and Sync and that whole story, that did that not count as a
they got character development for other reasons besides dying, I believe. I think in that issue where they died, I think we gave them the character development for living a whole life with each other, like in a romantic way. It's like they lived a life together, pretty much. It wasn't about the death; it was about the life, to be positive and hopeful here. You know,
I swear every issue of that book is like a season of television.
Yeah,
every single issue is like, this issue spanned 50 years.
I mean, so Bryan, I mean, I don't know if anyone else has FCL questions, but if any questions arise, guys, feel free to jump in with them. But if you'd like to hang out with us for the rest of the show, we'd love to have you if you got a little time.
Yeah, I think everybody should be asleep now, so I'm just hanging out downstairs.
All right,
Catch up on some stuff.
So we were going through the season awards. I'll tell you the ones that we had already talked about. The least valuable pick award was awarded to Colossus with 50% of the fan vote.
How is that possible? Didn't Colossus at least get points?
He did get points. We thought it should have been Supergirl, who was drafted in the second round and put up, I believe, 7 points, including bonus points.
Wasn't? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's including bonus points, which means she would have put up, so she put up 5. And I think
there had to have been a character who didn't score anything, right?
Well, I mean, I would say should also take into account where you were drafted. So I believe that all of Supergirl's scoring was in bonus points. So in terms of pure comics, she would have put up 0 points, and she was drafted in the first pick of the second round. But she was not the choice because people rallied their support behind Colossus. I think Gordy has a lot to do with that. The boldest pick, which we talked about before, was White Luke Cage, but I think it should have been Native American Lex Luthor. I think that was a pretty nice pick for the Native American delegation there.
To be fair, I think you should have included White Magneto because that was the boldest pick, but
no one wanted to cop to that. I seem to remember on the podcast a couple weeks ago when we were making our nominations.
I would go back and review the tape, sir.
Like, I mean, Magneto's a pretty persecuted character, so I think he fits right in with the white delegation. So
yeah,
that's just me speaking as a white guy.
Oh man. All right. But next one, the best new draftee. So the best character that was not drafted in season 1. The nominations were Venom for the Native American delegation, Man-Thing for the Jewish delegation, Null for Latinx delegation, and the Black Knight for the Black delegation. Arturo, who would have been your pick out of those choices?
I'm gonna stick with Null. I think again for his position, that was a gamble, and certainly one that really paid off.
Okay. See, my knock against Null is that he's a one and doner.
That's why I picked him because it's a 10-day contract.
Exactly. He's less a rookie and more of a
Gun for hire.
Old school movie where where the kid plays for the baseball team, but he's not really rookie of the year as much as he's rookie of the week. That's how I feel about Null. Like if Null gets 10 appearances in the next season, that will surprise the hell out of me.
Oh sure, but that I don't. If you're trying to win now.
What about you, Carlos? Who is your
No.
Of course you picked Null.
Hey, I'm from Chicago, the land of Jay Williams, 1 year and done, Derrick Rose, 3 years and done, and Gale Sayers, shine bright, shine fast.
All right, I feel that. So, Kia, we haven't heard from you for a while. Are you still with us? And who would be your pick for the best new draftee?
Well, I am with you guys. I am still here. And honestly, I don't know. I really have to do some research. I don't want to just put out a name.
Okay. I was thinking you were going to be all in on Venom, but who was British Kia? Who was our choice?
Well, British Kia would say, I'm thinking about it. What do you think, Carlos? I mean, British Kia always defaults to what Carlos would say. I don't know. I think she feels as though she's really bonded to Carlos.
What is?
That he would maybe invite her over for some tea and crumpets.
All right. Well,
what does Dr. Darcy Lewis think of?
I don't know. What does Dr. Darcy Lewis think about these about the best new draftee, Kia?
British Kia was speaking in code. She bonded, so she picks Venom. That's what she's talking about.
I feel that.
Yes,
That makes sense.
for sure.
What does Kat Dennings sound like, Kia?
Guys, listen to me, guys. Like, you guys know that it's really just not that funny. Like, we have to do this. We have to save her. She's on a TV show, guys.
And we want to. We here at the Racial Draft Podcast would like to congratulate Kat Dennings on a recent engagement. Feel free to come on the podcast and talk about it.
Engagement for what?
You got engaged to Andrew W.K.?
Yep.
Oh my God. He's a tech guy for sure.
But the people selected Native American
You guys
Venom.
get that, right? Like, get why I said that?
We got
yeah?
that. Yes,
I mean,
we got
you guys
that.
got that, right? That didn't just go over everybody's head, right? Like, okay, all right, good. Now that we have that settled. Continue.
Well, the people selected by a 38.5% vote Native American Venom. I think that's a very solid pick because I think Native American Venom is going to be a player going forward rather than just in this season. Second place was the Black Knight, who's probably also going to pop up because of the Eternal movies.
Right.
And that's 30.8%, 23.1% for Null, and the 7.7% for Jewish Man thing. Maybe it'll be a different season for him.
I would say the reason Venom, Native American Venom, is better than Null is just because Null wasn't necessary for that team. And if it wasn't for Venom, the Native American team probably would have had a total of like 40 points on the season.
I mean, yeah, between Venom and Carnage, like that, we're talking about, over half of their production. So yeah, that is a good point for
He was like
if we're
the best
looking at-
player, and he
Native
was in a
American
coma.
team just comes out to play,
Yeah.
Sometimes they just pick winners all of a sudden. It happens.
Well, that brings us to the next award. The best fan cast. The best fan cast award these are the nominees.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like which episode of a podcast had the best fan cast. And I'd be like, it was me. It was when I was Googling and I found some really good ones that I don't remember. But if you guys go back to that episode, you'll see.
Well, I mean, they'll hear it more than see it, but I feel you. So the four choices were Fat Joe as the Kingpin, which we got to shout out Carlos's fan art as Fat Joe Kingpin, which he totally should have used to campaign for this award. We also had Constance Wu as Lois Lane, John Boyega as Red Hood, Black Red Hood, and Melissa McCarthy as Amanda Waller. Bryan, of those fan casts, those racially drafted fan casts, which is your favorite?
I'm the worst person at fan casting. Who it was? Fat Joe as Kingpin. Give me who else again?
Fat Joe as Kingpin, Constance Wu as Lois Lane, John Boyega as Red Hood, and Melissa McCarthy as Amanda Waller.
Oh, Melissa McCarthy would be the worst thing ever. I'm very upset that she's going to be Ursula in The Little Mermaid. That's just a travesty.
Can she even sing?
I think maybe.
She's
but
probably
Can
it's
probably sing. Yeah.
it's awful choice. Very upsetting. And they got Ariel pretty well. Like I like her. What's it? Haley? No, Haley Berry. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
She's great. And what is it? Grownish. And Fat Joe. I mean, I don't know anything about besides rapping. Right? That's the rapper, Fat Joe.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
I feel like John Boyega as Red Hood is just kind of obvious because isn't that like a campaign on the internet?
It is. It was very easy to find fan art of John Boyega's Red Hood.
And then that leaves
Sure
Constance Wu as Lois Lane. Sure, why not? Let's go her.
All right. What about you? What about you, Carlos?
Fat Joe is Kingpin.
Hey, you're not in the bag for that, are you?
No, not at all.
And what about you, Arturo?
For once, I'm gonna join the internet mob. I'm fully down with Boyega the Red Hood. Possibly the only way to get me to care about Jason Todd.
Nice. What about you, Kia?
I'm gonna go with Constance Wu, but
Well,
Fat Joe would be my, it's right up there. I'll give you credit for that, Carlos. I'll give you credit.
well, the people agree with Kia. 42.9%. Constance Wu is Lois Lane. 28.6% Fat Joe Kingpin. 28.6% John Boyega as Red Hood, and 0 for White Amanda Waller, played by Melissa McCarthy. So just this once, the people made sense. Just this once. But that brings us to the next award. This one is going to be very, very, very controversial. Best backstory. Latino Kingpin. Shout out to that thread. I'll go ahead and reshare it. For
Latino Kingpin. I just want it to be anything other than Tomity's backstories. That's all I want. I do not want Tomity to win this at all.
Polynesian Thor.
It's a good one.
Black Krakoa.
If there was a background for that, whatever.
Black Krakoa.
Black Koa.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, Black Krakoa. Potentially the one thing that Krakoa. Never mind. And Latino Null, splitting the Latinx vote. Of those choices, Arturo, who is your favorite backstory?
I raved about Polynesian Thor at the time. I'm gonna stick with that.
All right. Carlos, you're not allowed to. Actually, no. You have to pick between your two. Yeah.
I like Null's backstory a lot, and I didn't write that one, so I'll say
that was
Null.
Martin. All right. Bryan, I don't know if you read the backstories for these characters. If not, you can go ahead and defer.
No, I didn't read all of them.
Okay. Kia, what about you?
But I will say that Krakoa just being drafted was a headache because I wasn't planning on counting that character because I knew it would be a headache. But
right. Since
somebody drafted it, I had to do it.
Hey, listen, Krakoa actually did something of note this week. I assume you read the Man-Thing book, and Krakoa thwarted Man-Thing's attack on the world.
Yeah, and it was like an off-screen point that we gave there, just because it was mentioned that he's depressing the attack on Krakoa, and Sean fought for a defensive power for it.
I thought it was worth it. I thought that was an example of what we talked about. Krakoa actually explicitly doing something.
Yeah.
And I think Kia said Latino Kingpin. So here's the controversy, guys. We have a 3-way tie.
What?
A 3-way tie
Whoa.
between Latino Kingpin, Polynesian Thor, and Black Krakoa, with 28.6% of the vote. Sorry to that man, Latino Null, with 14.3%. How do we break the tie, guys?
By me, obviously. And
whoever won the league.
No, as a matter of fact, that's not how we break the tie. I will choose, and it can't be Polynesian Thor, because no, Tomity, no. It can't be you, Carlos, because you sadly won this freaking season. So
I was very happy when it happened. I didn't sadly win it at all.
I'm sure you were. So let's give it to Black Krakoa. He needs a win in his life. Give it to him.
I believe I believe based on how they finished, that would be Afro-American or colored Krakoa.
Colored Krakoa, yes.
But 1950s Krakoa. All right, that's fair. We'll break the tie. The winner of the best backstory of season 2, Black Krakoa, take a bow, Randy, wherever you are. And that brings us.
Randy's gonna be in tears when he hears this. He's gonna be so elated.
That brings us to the best sleeper pick of the season. Sleeper picks. The 4 choices are multiracial Jane Foster, who was drafted, let's get into it, drafted with the 71st pick overall in the 9th round. Native American Carnage, who was drafted with the, who was drafted with the 67th pick in the same round. No, sorry, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th round for Native American Carnage. White Superboy was drafted not too far down in the 7th round with the 61st pick overall. And Jewish Man Thing, who was drafted with the 83rd pick in round 10. Bryan, we'll start with you since you're the FCL guru. Who should have been the best sleeper pick of the season?
I'd say Carnage came on too late, so I don't think he counts.
Okay.
I don't remember what Jane Foster did very much. I think she did all right, but I don't think she had any breakout moments that were huge for her. And the other 2 were
Superboy and Man Thing.
Man Thing also came on too late. I wouldn't give him a pick. I think Superboy is pretty constant for the white team, wasn't he? Because doesn't he have his own book and everything, or no?
Well, yeah, he had his own book during the Future State, and now he's pretty much the lead of one of the Superman books because Clark is taking a step back.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I saw his name pop up more.
The only thing about Superboy, he was kind of drafted, maybe not in the top half, but he was drafted, higher up enough in the pick that he wasn't really.
Where did you say Valkyrie came?
Valkyrie was drafted with the 71st pick in the 8th round.
8th round's not bad for Valkyrie. I'd say that's a pretty solid pick late in the game for her then.
Yeah. What about you? Carlos?
I do think that it's Carnage. I do, just because I wanted Carnage and then I didn't get Carnage. And yeah, just because it was the cluster. It was like the 2 or 3 like anthology series books that just came out and he just would just show up and then just remain silent the rest of the time.
See, that's the problem with the sleeper pick. If you can still sleep on him, even though he had some big weeks, that cuts against it. I think
he literally slept just for weeks on end, but finishes with 34 points on the season in what, three weeks, maybe. 3 appearances?
I was just looking at that now. He's now the 5th top antagonist on the year when he really hasn't been around much for 3 appearances. That's pretty solid.
Ooh, Carnage. Wow, Joaquin, you did a great job.
Our fan cast was in, our backstory was done. We were so good to go, and then just taken out from under us.
Oh, Joaquin. He likes to be called the Savage.
I was waiting.
He really does. Like, that's not like a thing.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting for more. Is he classy? Is he classy, bougie?
Savage all the time.
Is he classy, bougie? Whatever the other thing is. No,
he's that too, I think. But don't tell him that.
I'm not going to call him Savage. That's not happening.
Well,
he calls himself the Savage. He's been doing that since the Marine Corps.
Awesome for him. I'm not doing it.
Carlos, say it. Just say it. Just say that Joaquin is a Savage. Go ahead, say it. Take it.
Well, let's move on to Arturo.
Arturo, say it.
Arturo, who is your sleeper pick of the round? Of the picks.
I was stuck between Carnage and Superboy, just because, and Bryan kind of confirmed this for me. Carnage, when he shows up, it means there's some sort of of promotional play in the work. So he's going to get spam whenever you never just get one Carnage appearance. It's a flood, and then it just kind of stops. And Superboy is in the opposite situation where, you know, he's got the Bendis touch on him now. So he's going to get cared and developed and prepped for something. For me, it's Superboy by a hair.
Well, the people disagreed and went with Jane Foster because I don't know if you know this, guys, but she had a book. You know, she had a, and you guys all slept on it. she had a whole Valkyries book throughout King in Black, and she put up 37 points.
Mm-hmm.
She was a contributor.
Also appeared in Thor a good bit.
Yeah,
like she's like a big character in that for that Donald Blake storyline.
That's right. Yeah, so I mean,
whatever became of unnamed Black Valkyrie?
I think they were just about to give her a name.
Yeah, they did.
Because there's an ongoing Valkyries book.
Yeah.
And I think they were just about to say what her name was.
I think it's like Rihanna or something like that.
Rihanna? Oh.
Yeah, Rihanna the Valkyrie.
Oh, so they did name her. I remember they had one character who was about to say her name and they get murdered.
Was it LaQuisha?
Yeah, that.
No. So I guess
it was the end of the issue.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it started with an R. It wasn't Rihanna.
Well, I mean, if you have it in front of you, go ahead and let us know. But I can't remember it, so I'm not even going to try.
Runa Valkyrie, Runa.
Okay, Runa. So so Runa is the new. She's no longer the unnamed Black Valkyrie. She is now Runa.
We were calling her the Tessa Thompson Valkyrie.
Yeah, I mean, she's out there. But so I mean, maybe she'll be draftable in the next season. Maybe she'll kick around now that we have a Jane Foster Valkyrie. We have a Brunhilde the Valkyrie.
Yeah. And you figure if Tessa's going to be in Thor, like this character, if she's like the contemporary to
that is a good point. And Jane is going to be in Thor: Love and Thunder. So
the one, she'll probably appear a lot more leading up to the movie.
Right. Yeah. So, you know,
she was in our last poll of that all poll round, right? Unnamed Black Valkyrie. So.
Unnamed Black Valkyrie.
Want to know, like, did she end up scoring a lot or?
Yeah, Bryan, what was her final point total?
I don't remember what Deadpool did, but I don't remember ever being like, oh wow, Deadpool.
Deadpool has been underperforming a lot.
Well, his solo book ended, so it was.
Oh, it hasn't ended, has it? Really? I thought that was.
Or maybe just went on hiatus.
I think it skipped a month. So far on the year, he's only had 5 appearances with 43 total points, which is like not great. 22nd overall, not awful, but not Deadpool numbers. I mean, a couple years ago, it was Spider-Man and Deadpool were top 2 fighting usually, but he's dipping a little bit recently.
I'm sure they'll find a way to get his points back up when his movie is about to come out.
And Tessa Thompson Valkyrie is 29 points in 5 appearances, so not awful. Yeah, she's in the top 50 characters.
Yeah, she scored more than Kamala Khan.
She scored more than a good number of people. All
right, that brings us to top award, guys. More controversy. Here are our choices for the MVP, the most valuable player. And I don't know what criteria you guys usually lean towards when you decide who your MVP is, but Latino Batman, East Asian Spider-Man, multiracial Wonder Woman, and white Superman. Who was your MVP? We will start with you, Arturo.
This is the one time where I'm probably going to go with the Steph Curry model. I don't think you can argue against the Latinx Batman this year.
I mean, that's not. Oh, you said argue against the Steph Curry model.
Again, you can't argue against. You know, some years you got to go with sheer production. You know,
right?
And recognize it. So that's my.
Well, this is the combination of production
even for a
and
top.
this is production and being on the championship team, right? This is both.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
So yeah, for me, it's Latinx Batman. It's just can't overcome those numbers.
yeah. Carlos, we're gonna skip you. Kia, who's your MVP?
Hey, Carlos, who do you think I should pick?
Go with your heart.
Yeah, so that's nobody from the Latinx delegation. So let's go with.
I mean, your heart says Wonder Woman, doesn't it? All right, Bryan.
And the Crow.
The Crow. He's valuable to someone somewhere. All right, Bryan. The numbers say the analytics say Batman, but the narrative might say someone different. What do you think, Bryan?
I mean, numbers are facts. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Like, it annoys me, but Batman was clearly above and beyond the most valuable character. And, you know, it just hearing him talk about that, I'm going to share a deep trauma that I had as a kid about MVPs, because I was a high school swimmer. I swam through college, and freshman and sophomore year of high school, maybe freshman and junior, I got MV most improved swimmer, right, in high school, because I started out as a little guy and then I shot up and became like the top swimmer on the team, right? But then senior year, you know, I was a shoo-in for that MVP title because I was the best, you know, the best Jerry, the best. And I got coach's award, which was completely bogus. Like, who wants a coach's award? MVP,
No one.
best is the best performer, or the most valuable performer, which was me. And in this case, Batman. You know, me and Batman have a lot in common, except he's not getting passed over like I did.
You both have childhood trauma.
We do.
And
It's pretty much on par. I can't get over this one either.
exactly, like when you got the coach's award, your pearls dropped to the floor.
They were clutched at the very least.
Yes.
Swimming in salt.
Well, you guys are going to be shocked to find out that in much the way that the 1990s NBA got tired of giving it the award to Michael Jordan every year, and they looked around to try to find some other rubric to deliver another MVP.
Like, who was the most Karl Malone this year? Let's just give it to that guy.
Yep. And in that fashion, we have co-MVPs, people.
Wow.
Co-MVP. Because in addition to...
Hang on, hold on. There is a reason why this happened, and I can guarantee it's because last week you gave us bogus numbers on Batman's scoring. You told us Peter Parker had outscored him. Superman had scored as much as him.
Yeah, I didn't understand where that Superman Batman comment came from. What was that about?
Yeah, so I apologize.
That's way off.
Don't apologize. I think this is all good.
My models didn't take into account the fact that we went for an additional 8. We went for the additional 2 weeks beyond week 8. So my Batman line ended at week 8. Whereas the other lines went through week 9. So yeah, so there was an additional scoring week for both Superman and Peter Parker that was not taken into account for Batman. When you accounted for those last 2 weeks, that's how he got up to his high score. But I still think that given that Batman was the top scorer on the top team, he probably should have won. But I think it's fatigue. You know, sometimes you don't want to vote for the same guy year after year. The new blood.
So you vote for Spider-Man instead?
Listen. I mean.
Hopefully,
I
someone
think
give that
I
character
voted
a
for
chance.
Spider-Man because I thought he had scored more points than Batman. It's like, you got to go for the guy with the best year.
Not
All rigged,
necessarily.
folks.
Not necessarily. Sometimes you got to go for the guy who had the best season on the best team.
Yeah, I mean, Batman was the best DC character. Spider-Man's best Marvel character. I think that's fair.
Yeah, but co-MVPs, I don't hate it. I think that next year, when we talk about potential auction or potential salary cap, I don't think that's how things are going to play out next year. I
And I
think
just
that
want to say that I love it.
but I'll go ahead and give the numbers. I forgot to break that down. 36% for Batman, 36% for Spider-Man, 24% for Wonder Woman, and 4 points for Superman.
Mike, you know what's going to happen now, right? Someone's going to send a pass this podcast along to James Tinian, and he's going to be like, "You think you're sick of Batman now?"
No, he's gonna start. He's just gonna create a character that's a clown spider, and he's gonna like put him in. He's gonna put him in Gotham City, and have him be. His uncle was killed by the Joker, and he has decided to adopt the persona of the web swinging clown, and yeah, he'll get a push.
When
the,
Park Peter's uncle was killed by the Joker.
Exactly. And Batman takes him under his wing and trains him, just to further twist the knife. He'll look suspiciously like Tom Holland. That's what the future holds. You heard it here first. So overall, any other overall thoughts about season 2? Now that it is behind us firmly, we should probably talk a little bit more.
I'm glad
about the
we can let
supplemental
go
draft.
of it now. Like, it's over. It's done with. Let's move on.
Kia.
Arturo,
We're
I'll
still
ask
invited
you.
to the parade.
I'll ask you. What did you think of the supplemental draft? Did you like it? Did you,
Am I invited, Carlos? Am I really invited? Now that I'm not in Chicago, I'm all of a sudden invited to the parade. You guys see this?
You noticed that.
Little too soon to tell. I'd like to see a couple more supplementals drafts go down. But I'm a big fan of trades, so I would definitely love to see more acquisitions take part as the game goes on.
Yeah, I feel you there. Bryan, what did you think of the trade aspect? Do you guys do trades in the Fantasy Comics League?
We do not. The main thing we do is just keepers and stuff between the months where people can hang on to a certain number of players and then drop others. So there's that aspect that comes into play, but no real trading. I mean, like I said, I'd say the division play is really casual, and the fact that we just do, all right, draft at the beginning of the month, and then we'll see you in a month. Gotcha. I think that's very appealing to a lot of people, that it's just set it, draft it, and then see how it turns out. Yeah.
Right. Do you also share most of our concerns that the Latinx delegation fleeced the Black delegation with their draft? I mean, with their trade.
No, because I think, and not to speak for the Black delegation, I don't think they're in it to win it from a point standpoint, right? I mean, which is cool. Well, I mean, they drafted the one above all in the first season. And
that's not their fault. I totally twisted that and threw that out there, and they went for it.
I think they're more focused on giving a compelling story for who they're picking, which is cool. I think that's one way to play it. So I think
that is in fact one way to play it. It's not the winning way to play it, but it is a way to play it.
Yeah, I think they were like, whatever, yeah, let's do this. We can make this a good story. They're in it for the story aspect instead of the points. And I wouldn't use the word fleeced, because I don't think anybody was unknowingly taken advantage of. I would say that. I think it's fine based on what the two parties were trying to get out of the system.
I feel you. I mean, like I said, if we take scoring out of the equation, and we take don't
do that. It's the best thing about the game.
Like I think
that's how Bryan gets money, Michael. Let's not take that.
I think if it was just Red Hood and America Chavez straight up,
right,
I think that would be a straight up good trade. It's where you add in the Yarrow Floor and the Kate Bishop of it all. but I understand. I mean, Commissioner Gordon, or sorry, James Gordon, and Commissioner
Montoya.
came in, and they do get appearances.
So I thought that was cool how it was elevating some of the supplemental draft picks into the actual playing. And I think if that's something that you guys worked in more, and I say all this knowing that the work will be on you to keep all that straight, like that's fine. Don't ask anything more of me than other putting in numbers in a database. Just tell me who's on whose team. I think that would be a cool aspect if you could somehow figure that out, where like you can bring in like one of your supplemental picks, but that means you have to make room for them. So you could wind up dropping somebody, but that supplemental pick can come in and take their place.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're kicking around some ideas for the next season. And, I do think that there will be some tweaks to the supplemental draft, but I think the supplemental draft is here to stay. And, I think it gives us more opportunities to have characters to talk about. And who doesn't love that,
I think that the supplemental should just be whatever character you want to draft, regardless of power set. And then I'll just trade them for players that I can. Because I mean, like, let's be real. If I could have drafted, trying to even think of a character. Let's say I drafted the second Batman, Jace Fox.
Yeah, Jace Fox.
Yeah, let's say I took him in the first round of the supplemental draft. I could have traded him for anything in the properly drafted in the proper draft.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of content for the show and action and activity, if you open it up that way, it would have been very hard for me to trade Alfred Pennyworth. But
I mean, also because Alfred's dead. Yeah.
Because he's dead. Exactly. But, but if I could have drafted anyone who went undrafted through, what was that, 12 rounds?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, would have been.
Yeah, I think that
change the strategy a little bit.
I think for next season, I think that Batman should be only allowed to be drafted in the last round.
But then the last round is just the first round, kid. it's the round with Batman in it.
I'm good with keepers.
Yeah, exactly.
We should all get to keep one character.
That would be like it would be like one character, right? Like, because obviously he's loved. We maybe add like on one other character, but then the last round usually is polls anyway, and then we'll see. Because think about it this way: people have to be all strategic about who they pick throughout the whole thing, and the people can make or break what team really actually pulls through. If they really think about it, they're really paying attention to all the picks and stuff. They can make Batman either be great on somebody else's team and probably take him to the next level, or give him to let's say the Native American delegation, and then they'll just be on the board. They won't win anything, but hey, they won't finish last.
I mean, like I said, I've been leaning towards the salary cap thing. And players having to decide how much of their bankroll they're willing to spend on Batman, because
that's not going to work, because half means jiggity jiggity Jew, and I'm going to be like, but what about
stop. Listen, we here at the Racial Draft fully support Jewish Batman. We think that the Jewish delegation should pay whatever price is the fair price for Batman.
But really, isn't it free?
And not a penny more.
Haven't the Jewish people gone through enough? Like, I mean, should you just give them Jewish Batman?
I can just see Kia. $200 for Batman. Why would I do $150 for Batman? I'm not going to give you $100 for Batman.
And there's a fan cast involved. It's a whole thing. Like he just every day he tells you about his parents dying. It's a whole
and needs a GoFundMe or $5.
He's like, Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? I would have helped you, but my parents got killed when I was a small child. You know?
It's awful.
That's hilarious.
Oh man. Stay tuned when we never mind. I'm not gonna make that joke about who the Joker is, which delegation is going to draft the
Nope.
Joker.
Nope. Walk away. Walk away now.
Don't do
I
it.
think you
Nope.
should.
Nope.
Stop that right
Did you
now.
say the line?
It's been
New
a nice
dele-
run.
New delegations are going to be added every week. As we...
Maybe the German delegation.
Oh no, that is an unacceptable. That is
Oh.
unacceptable. We do not support that.
What about the?
Nope.
No,
Man.
no,
Nope,
no,
nope,
no,
nope,
no,
nope,
no,
nope,
no,
nope.
nope, nope, nope.
Oh,
Nobody wants to say anything today. Weird.
but yeah, you know, there we here we like to have fun here in the racial draft, with sometimes inappropriate jokes, and it's all for entertainment purposes. Yes,
As
it
long
is.
as Kia said them first.
That's right.
We should all get one keeper. And I think, just looking over my roster, really looking
I mean,
at that
look,
Batman pick.
Look, we at some point we've talked about this before. At some point, we are going to do Dynasty,
Yeah.
but it's still a little early for that. And for those of you who aren't fantasy conversant, Dynasty means you keep everyone. So once that happens, it becomes a game of making trades, because who you've drafted is who you get to keep as long as you want. But we're not there yet. We're still in the early stages. So if you're a listener and this is your first episode, I apologize, but hopefully you're here for the ride. But before we go, but we will be going soon. Before we go, we're going to dive into very quick news stories. We didn't have a lot of news. We actually had a lot of fake news. Not that kind of fake news, but fake news. I assume you're all familiar with the Fantastic Four.
I've heard of them. Yes.
A very popular fan casting for the Fantastic Four, one that I don't in fact endorse, is John Krasinski as Reed Richards and Emily Blunt as Sue Storm, because apparently acting isn't a thing, so people want to cast a real married couple to play a fake married couple.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Kia?
I think Emily Blunt is just amazing. So anything Emily Blunt, I'm down for.
I think Emily Blunt is amazing too, and I think she could stretch her legs as an actress and not just play John Krasinski's wife. That's my thing. But Emily Blunt finally was asked a question about playing Sue Storm after years of people fan casting her, and she was like, "Nah, not into it."
Yep.
She said, "No one has received a phone call. It's just people saying, wouldn't it be nice?" And she didn't say, someone asked, did she think that a Marvel or DC film was beneath her? And she was like, no, don't put words in my mouth. I'm just not into the comic stuff. It's not, this is the exact quote. It's not that it's beneath me. I loved Iron Man and I wanted to work with Robert Downey Jr. because at one point she was considered for the role of Black Widow. It would have been amazing, but I don't know if superheroes are for me. They're not up my alley. I think it's been exhausted. We're inundated. It's not that it's only the movies, all the TV shows as well. And that's not to say that I would never want to play one. It would just have to be something so cool, and then I would be interested in general. I don't race to see superhero movies. They just leave me feeling a little bit cold. I can't explain it. I can't get there. Emily spoke very bluntly about her.
Well, damn.
So
how do you feel about that,
I think she's right for the most part. I am suffering something of superhero fatigue in my film and television content as well, and so I get it. But what is A Quiet Place? But superhero.
I actually still haven't seen A Quiet Place, but I already have tickets to see A Quiet Place 2.
A Quiet Place is really good.
Yeah.
It is, but I mean, like it's also a genre film, and it's
Mhm.
not, it's not like she's making, like I'm trying to like Citizen Kane or something. She's still
Oh,
putting out genre work. Looper is the same thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, but at the same time, and this is where it gets a little dicey, right? Um, I'm sure. I mean, she played Mary Poppins. That's
right,
that's a superhero. But I think
That was a
part of
goddamn
what
Time Lord.
exactly. I think part of the situation is that people weren't saying they wanted Emily Blunt because they felt that Emily Blunt was bringing some kind of, unique characteristic to the role that they thought that she was uniquely qualified to play. Like the role can be a whole bunch of different things. The role of Sue Storm can be a whole bunch of different things, and they just wanted her because they wanted a real life married couple.
that's it.
I mean, she's basically saying, I want a role that, you know, feels meaty, feels like something I could really, sink my teeth into as an actress. And I'm not seeing it. Like like I think she probably could have been a great Hela in,
Oh yeah,
a lot of the villain roles, tend to be roles with a lot of depth to them and a lot of layers, and they give actors an opportunity to have fun. Sometimes the superhero roles are just kind of basic,
hmm
you know.
If,
Again, she left the door open to potentially being cast at another point, but
well,
right
of
now
course she
that's
did.
not her thing.
Of course she did. But here's two things with this. One, um, if anything has become basic in superhero media, I would argue that it's the action pieces now.
Mhm.
Because more and more we've seen people who would watch superhero media if it were not by default an action movie. They would have
Mhm.
watched WandaVision and enjoyed it just fine if it was
Just a
Wanda
sitcom.
and just the sitcoms,
Mhm.
and even doing more genre spoofs. I can tell you for a fact there are fans who would have enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier better if it was about Sam dealing with institutional racism and Bucky's dealing with his trauma.
yeah.
Especially after that final episode. Um, that said, stories like this or reports like this, to me, um, there's an element of carny to them
Yes.
because, of course, no actor is going to say, "I don't want Marvel money," um, and of course, no talent is going to come out on the record, as being involved in this kind of project when we barely got a glimpse of the Four logo in a face trailer like a week or two prior.
Mhm.
Right.
So I appreciate having a discussion, but it's hard to give this kind of thing a lot of weight. And as far as outlet X asks
Mhm.
this talent, how do you feel about superhero movies? And they run the first couple of graphs of or sentences and slap 300 words together, and suddenly it's a post.
Right.
That's the difference between content and journalism.
Yeah. And I can agree with that. I think that if it was either of the two things on their own, if it was either Emily Blunt denies um Emily Blunt denies being the um
Being approached.
or Emily Blunt says I'm not that into superhero movies. Like either of those stories on their own are probably not a story, but the two together creates a more of a talking point. But I definitely take where you're coming from, you know. But yeah, like I just thought it was mostly because I have that anti casting agenda. So that's why I as the host
No,
wanted
and
to
you're right too. People only took this particular couple and will let people figure out the reasons why, and they just stuck them in as a married couple role. When, as you said, Emily could have played a variety of other roles within the context of Marvel, but
Right.
people only seem to think of action office Jim now as
Mhm.
Reed Richards. By the way, that Jack Ryan show, it is ridiculous. As somebody who read the books,
I still
it
keep
is
meaning.
ridiculous.
I still keep meaning to get into it.
It's man. I mean, and I read the books. I grew up reading a lot of Tom Clancy. I apologize. But it is kind of funny that in the first season in particular, Jack is a complete Marty Stew. He can do no wrong at all. That said, Wendell Pierce is fun, so we get to see him, you know, especially in action settings.
I just don't understand how the character of Jack Ryan translates to Reed Richards.
No, I think that's where people still think of Jim Halpert as Reed Richards.
Ah, I see.
You know,
Well, I think they're
Emily Blunt
thinking
thing.
like the Chris Pratt kind of thing, where it's like you can be a comedic actor and you can do this action stuff, so you're perfect for Marvel.
But the thing is, I do think he's perfect for Marvel in a variety of roles. I don't see it as Reed Richards, really. I just,
I think Quiet Place did a lot for him in a Reed Richards standpoint, because that showed that he's a good father. He's a family man. He can play that role, and the dad in that was pretty smart. So
I guess I just have to watch The Quiet Place then. Yeah,
it was all right.
Yeah, because
he could also direct a movie. Like he directed A Quiet Place.
Yeah,
right.
I think I'm a big fan of the Krasinski Reed casting. I seriously doubt it's going to happen, because I don't see why Marvel would give in to something that big. I would be fine with him, but I do not want the Emily Blunt, hey, let's team up a married couple to be a married couple. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's the worst kind of stunt casting to me.
It's like when they wanted Bryan Cranston to be Lex Luthor because he was bald.
Yes.
Remember that?
He was a bald villain on Breaking Bad, therefore he should be a bald villain in the Superman universe. It's like,
that's not.
I mean, maybe they should just write a comic book character that's Heisenberg then.
Just like razors exist. You understand this, right?
Well, here's another. This is even further down the line of non-news, but it's a reason for us to talk, guys. There is a rumor that there is a Midnight Suns movie in development, as per the hashtag show. Are you guys familiar with the Midnight Suns? I assume we all are, right?
I had that whole story. Blade, Hannibal King, Lilith, the whole messed up mess.
The Darkhold. But it's rumored to involve. Let's see. And this rumor is supposed to involve Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, Blade, Hannibal King, Hellstrom, Ghost Rider, and Scarlet Witch. But again, it's still in the early stages of rumor bubbling. But given that there is obviously a Moon Knight movie in development, a Blade movie in development, and Wanda's supposed to be appearing in the Multiverse of Madness, there's a big part of this rumor is that Ghost Rider will also appear in the Multiverse of Madness. So, if we'll start paying attention to the rumor mill. If we hear that there's a Ghost Rider being cast, maybe there's some credence to this.
I mean, that'd be sad, because we already had a Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which sadly appears to be kind of getting brushed off to the side.
Yeah. I mean, while I did like Gabriel Luna in the role, I thought that aging him up, took a lot of steam from the stories they could tell with Robbie Reyes.
Maybe. I mean, the Ghost Rider mythology is so open potentially. I don't think a lot of that hinges on the age of the character. I mean, Johnny Blaze was an adult when we first met him as readers.
Right, but I mean, a big part of what makes the character, or in my opinion, what makes the character work in the comics is that he is such a novice. Like he's new to this thing, both as a young person and as a superhero, and the other characters deal with him as such, even though he's a very powerful being. he's still trying to figure it out. I think when you have someone in their like late 30s playing the role, it you know, that dynamic doesn't really, you know, lend itself to mentorship.
Takes the bike to the store. Ain't got time for Joe riding.
You know, because I think there's almost sort of a natural storyline of having Johnny Blaze as the mentor for Robbie Reyes. You know, because of the fact that Johnny seems like a character that would have come of age in the, you know, 80s and in the 70s.
Oh, Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so having an older Johnny Blaze and a younger Robbie Reyes seems like a way to kind of create that continuity and that legacy that you wouldn't necessarily have if you had an older Robbie Reyes.
Maybe. Let me ask you. Let me ask you all. Actually, do you think this lineup that Michael just read, does that seem a little overstuffed to you all?
What is that? 7 characters? That feels
Look,
like a.
Well, 2 of them are Wanda and Strange,
Mhm.
who, you know, that's the Avengers branding working in. Plus, Blade got his own movie.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of screen time and oxygen story-wise you're taking up potentially. When in the comics, the Midnight Suns, the team was more or less B-list players,
Right.
so they all felt it was closer to being. It was easier for me to buy them as colleagues because they were along the same lines in terms of being heroes. They were all sort of working to redeem themselves.
But even in that run, if I remember correctly, wasn't Doctor Strange kind of like the Nick Fury to that original Midnight Suns team? As like he would occasionally pop up and say, you know, you guys go here, you guys go here. There's the threat is the threat. You know, I could still see Doctor Strange playing that kind of role in the Midnight Suns storyline, even in the movies.
Well, I mean, just because of the expense involved, I feel like that would have to be Strange or Wanda, not both. And you know, Wanda to me is the wild card, just because there's so many things you could do with her.
Yeah. Yeah, Wanda seems like the character that
maybe they're all book club.
Yeah, I mean, like Wanda seems like the kind of character that is, you know, based on how they've powered her up, it would seem kind of like slumming for her to end up with the Midnight Suns when it's all said and done.
I mean, if she ends up as the leader and that being her,
yeah,
you know,
that being
a newfound family, that's an interesting position.
Yeah, that's a good point. But then that seems superfluous to have her as the leader and then also have Doctor Strange there.
Right. See, so there's only so much to go around in a televised setting.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we got 2 Iron Man movies before we got Thor? And
yes.
Do you remember like thinking to yourself, how are they going to incorporate magic into this MCU that they were like? I remember coming out of Iron Man 2 being like, how are they going to bring Thor to this? Like, how is that going to, you know, how is this going to work? Because like you had Iron Man, a man of science, Hulk, man of science, and then Thor was this Norse god. And it's like, how are these 2 worlds going to converge? I understand they do in the comics, but in the movies, how are we going to? It was the Batman Superman conundrum of like the Dark Knight. How do you do Superman in the world where the Dark Knight is?
And one might argue that that's a big part of what hurt the early Thor movies. You know, the fact that they had to slow play the more magical, fantastical elements in order to have him feel congruent in the more grounded world.
Sure.
And you know, it wasn't
until like right now I'm in the same space, the same headspace with the supernatural stuff, but it is more of like I mean, I just remember hearing, oh, they can't even do Ghost Rider because skulls are not a thing that you can put on in theaters in China. And Mephisto was like a big no-no. It was never going to happen in a movie. So like, you know, how do they lean in on the supernatural stuff, the dark arts stuff, in this Marvel universe, and I'm having trouble getting there. I know it can happen in the comics, and I'm fully ready for it to happen because you know me, like my motto is let's get weird. Like I just want it to be weird. I don't see how they're going to incorporate it in the films. I could see it on a Disney Plus series, and in that case, I don't think you're getting Doctor Strange, and you know, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, we almost got him in WandaVision, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I could see is where the really weird stuff happens on Disney Plus, but they just sort of show up together, you know, like all the groundwork is done of like putting them together on Disney Plus and them going against like a Mephisto or like a weird, you know, a weird person. And then like in the movies, like Doctor Strange opens up a portal and out come the Midnight Suns, like as a fully established team that we've already kind of done the groundwork to show how they fit together.
I mean, the Doctor Strange in WandaVision was supposed to be like the last episode, right? Like it wasn't going to be like a series regular. It was a cameo at the end. It was I was trying to get through to you, and
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and those are easy to do, right? You can film those at the movie studio when he's filming Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. You can have
stay in costume. We need you to walk over to this slot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of times those stingers are actually directed by the person who's directing the movie that they're being a stinger for.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I could see, like I said, I could see Doctor Strange being kind of like the Nick Fury of the Midnight Suns, where he just kind of pops up in astral projection and says, "You guys are doing good, you know, go this next place." And it's really kind of Moon Knight and, you know, Moon Knight, Blade, and Ghost Rider as your trinity. Like I said, Wanda feels a little bit maybe not belonging, but Hannibal King really feels like he doesn't belong. Like he's nobody cares about Hannibal King. Sorry guys, sorry 80s guys. But
we've also had a lot of, like, how long have we been talking about Justice League Dark maybe being a thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this feels very much like that. Like, and it does appear to be the trend of the new MCU. It's like, oh, Thunderbolts, you know, Young Avengers. Like, maybe not. I've only ever seen them build up to an Avengers before. So until further notice, I can't. It's actually hard for me to picture a world where we've got the Young Avengers and the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers and the, you know, like all of it.
And
But if we're talking about the content industrial complex, right? If we're talking about the fact that Marvel, more than even story, they're selling future story, then always having a thing, the sprinkles to a potential next thing feels like, hey, if we have 3 or 4 teams that are being constructed in real time, then the people have an opportunity to speculate about what the next thing is, how this story feeds into the next story, which would feed into the next story. That having 3, like if you're just building one story, then there's a lot of stuff that can be rejected. But if you don't know if this is leading to Thunderbolts, or if it's leading to Dark Avengers, or if it's leading to Young Avengers, or if it's leading to Secret Invasion, it creates that extra level of intrigue, because we all know it's leading to something, but it's like which of the things is it leading to? Is it Mephisto or is it a Skrull? You know, is it?
To me, it feels like the big question that the shows are beginning to dance around is who will be the Avengers? Who will be the next iteration of the team? And the other, to me, the big heat check is, as far as like how much power does Marvel still have with what you said is the future story, is Eternals. I mean, if Eternals manages to make that comic or those characters relevant for the FCL, I think that'll be a remarkable achievement in and of itself.
That comic is so lame.
I agree. Cersei hasn't been interesting since she was an Avenger back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
You know, same for Black Knight. but the rest is like, who? But I don't know. It's interesting. We're talking about Young Avengers and Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts, and oh, by the way, X-Men and Fantastic Four are still in the bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the big joker that they're ready to play whenever they need it and they need to.
It just feels like to me like it's like, oh, they're getting ready for Thunderbolts. Oh, they're getting ready for Young Avengers. And then because all they need to do is show you glimpses of those characters or tell you that projects with those characters are in development, and then we are finishing that off. We're putting the closure on it and saying, if they've got this and this, they must be leading to this. And then when they don't do that, we'll all be like, shame on us for how dare we, foresee that they were going to build this team with these characters who are all on that team. And, we should have always trusted that they were going to do whatever they were going to do.
But I also feel, I mean, I know where you're going with this, but I also feel like in the meta story, right? If we're like the fact that there is a world in the MCU that doesn't have the Avengers can lend itself to these teams springing up, all trying to vie for the next Avengers title. It's kind of like when Jordan retired, going back to basketball metaphors, all these players are like, I'm the next Jordan. I'm Allen Iverson. Yeah. I'm the next Jordan. I'm Kobe Bryant. I'm Harold Miner, whatever, like, and who will be the Harold Miner in this metaphor? We don't know. but the thing is, the minute that you have a new Avengers team, it sort of takes the air out of these other teams forming to fill that void. So to me, it's always been they're in Marvel's best interest to delay the next Avengers movie as long as possible, so they can give these other teams room to breathe in that void. It makes sense from a storyline perspective that someone's like, we don't have the Avengers right now. If we make the Thunderbolts, then people will like us like the Avengers. Or it's like, we're kids. They don't have the Avengers right now. If we become Avengers, then people will respect us, or the X-Men show up or the Fantastic.
So you're saying the MCU is the world without a Superman, and we're trying to figure out which one is.
I think that's very much an in-canon implication right now.
Yeah.
Like in canon, Steve Rogers deputized half of the world as Avengers when he said Avengers Assemble.
But then he left.
And then he left.
And then there's no Avengers headquarters, and there's no Tony Stark.
Yeah.
There's no place for the Avengers to hang out.
Yeah.
There's nobody to say Avengers Assemble. Like, there's no one with everybody's phone number. There's no group text.
I mean, there is a Captain America.
Well,
I mean, maybe Wong is the maybe Wong
what
what were you gonna say, Arturo? Sorry.
My friend, a buddy, a buddy and I go back and forth on this every so often. Like, who's got the Slack chat? Because right now, like, who's really connected right now? Sam and Bucky and Rhodey, more or less.
Kind of, yeah.
Fury is working with.
He's in space.
He's in space,
but either he's working with Danvers again, or at the very least, they're abreast of each other's activities. And now Monica's getting pulled up into that.
Right, which means she wasn't involved in it before.
Right. Hawkeye's out. Peter is on his own, but thinking he's working for Fury. Wakanda's the big X factor for a lot of reasons.
Yep.
But we have to assume that they're doing their own thing.
Well, obviously,
they've got to be.
Dora Milaje just came. I mean, the Dora Milaje just came rolling up, so they're still active.
Oh no, but I'm just saying that it's not like they're going through official channels to contact people. They're doing it on their own behalf.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but again, there's a whole fleet of questions behind that situation, and including the Starbucks. But there's
or maybe the Olympics.
But without like you said, without the campus, without Fury, there is no team, and that's why I said, like, I feel like in delaying the movie as much as possible, building the team becomes the meta story.
Yeah, And I also think that
You
I've
know,
I've talked about this
it's a
before,
parable to the,
but I've also talked about this before that the Fantastic Four feels like the now that Marvel has the rights to Fantastic Four, it feels like the thing that the people in that world would really glom onto. Like it feels like the next stage of what people would want from their superheroes. You know, they're celebrities. They're open. There's a super science. There's a playboy who's, on all the covers or whatever, uh however they decide how to age him up. You have like the cuddly big dude, and whatever they decide to do with Sue, whether they make her like a scientist or they make her kind of a glamour person. Like there's a lot of direction they could take with her. But the thing is, they feel like a brand, they feel like a product, and they feel like in that world that is starving for an Avengers, it does seem like you could have the Fantastic Four be who wins that hearts and minds, but you have the Thunderbolts be the team that we think is pushing really hard, to be the next Avengers, especially if there's some government involved and they want to get stooges in there. There's a logic to what happens when we had the Avengers and now we don't, and now everyone's sort of split off and doing their own thing, but no one really has the gravitas to do the Avengers assemble and everyone actually assemble again. And then if you introduce, I mean, we've had our differences and well, not differences, I think we happen to be on the same page, Carlos, you and I. But something like Secret Invasion only further divides the heroic community, about the idea of like, I don't know these people very well. Like, they might be Skrulls. I'm not gonna call this guy, try to get him on my team. So there's room for seeing those stories play out, and there's room for, like I said, a rumor like the Midnight Suns, where you have a magical Avengers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess we got a little bit of discussion out of this topic. And speaking of Secret Invasion, that was an organic segue, because we now have directors for Secret Invasion in Thomas Bezucha, who I've not seen Let Him Go. I don't know if you have, if any of you have.
I haven't.
And Ali Salim, who worked on The Looming Tower. So it's going to be co-directors, very much crime drama and thriller genre. I know this, we've talked about this being a spy thriller, and they feel like candidates who know what they're doing. And Kyle Bradstreet, from Mr. Robot, is also going to be involved as an executive producer, and I believe one of the big writers. And I know I'm a big fan of Mr. Robot, and Carlos, you are as well. Arturo,
Absolutely.
fan of Mr. Robot?
Haven't watched haven't watched a lot of that show, but I do. But somebody from that show being involved for this project does kind of seem to lay out a roadmap for it. And it's for this story, I think someone who can work with conspiracy and perception and reality and deception. I think that's a good through line to have when you're looking at the creative team. To me, Secret Invasion seems like it's going to be one of the major turning points in that next big story of, where do the heroes go from here?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, encouraging thus far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about how they're just stacking it with big name actors, and who knows? Check your email. Maybe you've been cast for Secret Invasion as well. But that's it as far as news. I wanted to get in on the actual news that there are directors, but I can't give you my take on it because I haven't seen their work. But hopefully, if I dive in, I'll have a stronger take about how Secret Invasion might take shape.
I listened to an interview with Matt Shackman, who everyone will remember as the first credit you see at the end of an episode of WandaVision. And he was, I believe it was on Fat Man Beyond, and he was talking about how he believed that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the last time that they were going to use one director for an entire series, because they were like, it's a lot. That's a lot to put on one director to direct an entire series of, television, entire season of television. So this would appear to be the first time that he's been proven right, where they're going to break up the season between two directors, but who appear to be on the same page stylistically, or at least content wise, I guess.
Yeah, and then I know this doesn't really fall into the realm of news because it fell into the realm of trade, rumor casting, I guess is one way of calling it, where people have their different agendas in the trades and they leak in various forms. The idea of Disney Plus shows not having a traditional showrunner,
right,
has been a source of a little bit of consternation. This tandem of main writer director may be how Marvel does its productions on the Disney Plus, because they're shooting them similarly to movies, even though they're presumably episodic. We got a little bit of that with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I believe, I don't know who's behind Loki actually. I'll have to look that up. But
they just made, actually there was just something about that that the showrunner 2 seconds please. Kate Herron, the director, in fact, said that the show would be inspired by Teletubbies.
Okay.
Because it's going to be weird. But Michael Waldron is credited as the showrunner. Kate Herron as director.
Okay. So we'll probably see them, share duties in terms of talking about the creative direction of the show and how the filmmaking, takes shape, and then people will decide, one of them is a woman. I imagine that if they don't like it, she'll get all of the blame.
I laugh, but that's absolutely correct.
And the stuff that people do like, they'll find a way to give the credit to the man. But that's fandom for you guys. But I don't know. I mean, that's it for us. That I think we're at the end of our news. We're at the end of our racial draft business. We've got we're gonna have some off-season shows as we try to shore things up for season 3. Last chance for overall thoughts about the season. I guess I'll start with you, Bryan, since you've been a little quiet.
Oh, I thought it was great. I liked seeing how things developed, and I like the different touches you guys have made to make your own unique division with its own rules and ways to make it engaging and fun. I'm looking forward to I'm hoping that you guys pick up some more trading and some other stuff like that. But I would definitely say season 2, big improvement over season 1 as far as characters drafted. So keep that up.
Okay. Carlos, I'll let you take your bow and reattach your shoulder from patting yourself on the back.
No, this was congratulations to the Latinx team, and it wasn't me. It was Martine was our leader, by the way, and Nina and S, and we had Arturo. We tried to bring you in, but you decided to.
Yeah. Sorry, for reasons I'll explain in a minute or two. I am all over the place already, so I appreciate the offer, though. But continue.
But I am actually really interested to see how the final scoring broke down for everything, because it does appear that had we not drafted Batman in the first round, we would have lost. So.
And Arturo, what were your overall thoughts about the season and how things went?
Congrats to the Latinx team for pulling it through. Thank you for not letting us down. Overall, I agree with Bryan. Better play, better characters. The backstory, the creation of the backstory this year was remarkable. I selfishly want Kia to come back next year just so that we can have maximum disruption as far as the team relations go.
I want to beat Kia.
Ooh.
Calling you out, Kia.
I do want to see more trades next year. I like the supplemental draft idea, the idea of anteing up for a player financially. That I think is also worth exploring as a former fantasy sports degenerate myself. But no, this is fun. And again, thank you all for letting me tag along for the ride here.
And speaking of tagging along, listeners, thanks for hanging with us. I know it's another long show. We'll try to pare it down a little bit so that you don't have to have it broken down for different parts of your day. But again, if this is your first show, I apologize, but hopefully you are with us on the ride as we hit one catchphrase after another. First catchphrase being, we change the complexion of the comic book universe one draft pick at a time. And we're going to do that in season 3 for sure. Hopefully, if you're, you can find us on social media. You can find us at Racial Draft Pod on Twitter, at racial.draft on Instagram, at Racial Draft on Facebook. You can find me at MTFIII, Carlos at Carlos Freitas Jr., Arturo at a boy named Art.
Oh, and sorry. Besides the Twitter, a boy named Art. It's also myself at twitch.tv, where I host a small weekly stream show every Saturday night, playing deep dive lost rock, punk, riot girl, new wave, soul jams for a couple hours. That is also me at Mixcloud, where we produce that show in mixtape format for all your listening needs. If you just have some, you want to get away from the current hits and you want to get away from the greatest hits spam nature of a lot of Twitch channel, and you really want to maybe discover songs that are new to you or that you missed out on the first time around. Again, Mixcloud and twitch.tv, a boy named Art.
All right. And you can find Fantasy Comics League at, I believe it's Fantasy. Give it to us, Bryan. Sorry.
So on Twitter, it's Fantasy Comic LG for character limits. But fantasycomicleague.com is our website. And just searching Fantasy Comic League anywhere, we are like the top result from that, because I don't think there's any other Fantasy Comic League out there. We've done a good
and Patreon, right? Fantasy Comics League on Patreon.
That category, I feel.
And Fantasy Comics League on Patreon. Yes. But yeah, like we are always looking for people to join our community. We are always looking to expand our ranks of delegations. If we can get up to 10 or 12 delegations, that would be awesome. So if you feel like your delegation has not been represented, holler at one of us and we'll talk about it. We'll get you up to speed. We'll expand the ranks and we'll expand the number of characters, because again, doing it, changing the complexion one draft pick at a time means more draft picks, more characters. But this is the moment you're all waiting for. Until next time, Carlos.
All things are possible.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 2, 3.